I became the god of light. Hey! Look who's back for more adventures. We love having you here to continue this story that keeps us all awake. Important note, all of this is pure fiction. So don't try any techniques you hear here in real life, your neighbor might call the cops. This amazing novel and all its rights belong to the original author. We're just the ones giving it voice and drama. Are you enjoying the show? Prove it by subscribing to our YouTube channel and leaving that like that motivates us so much. And if you want VIP access to exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting with things you won't find anywhere else. Chapter 477 The Twisted and Terrifying Evil God. Crack. Crack. Cracks appeared, and the sealed orb could no longer withstand the pressure, on the verge of collapse. Retreat, Resurrection shouted. They all retreated, observing from a distance of 1,000 meters. Just as they were watching in shock, the spirit among the gods suddenly murmured, "It's coming out, the core of 10,000 demons, what are you saying?" Resurrection and the others turned around in astonishment. "Do you know this evil god?" Prophecy asked with a hint of wariness. The spirit did not answer, but instead reminded them, "Look." The gods were startled, their attention returning to the sealed orb. Boom! The entire black orb exploded. Within the black mist, a terrifying being was awakening. Hee-ha-ha! A cacophony of whispers echoed, as if countless people were murmuring in their ears. In an instant, space drastically changed, a terrifying pressure swept out, large swathes of space collapsed and shattered, a bizarre and fantastical scene depicting all the desperate situations in the world. An invisible pressure shook the very space, causing the entire evil god space to tremble. Lamentations echoed endlessly, and spatial fragments swept through, forming a fierce temporal storm. The void trembled, seemingly in celebration, as the collapse of all things intertwined in a mournful lament. Things within the black mist expanded, and before the gods could recover from their shock, the evil god space completely collapsed. Boom! 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 The vast space exploded. "Not good," exclaimed the inverted one. With a wave of his hand, a vast expanse of spatial power enveloped the gods, preventing the shattered space from harming them. After a period of distortion and chaos, the gods suddenly appeared on the black earth. They were initially stunned, then their expressions turned to shock as they stared blankly ahead. The colossal creature within the black mist rapidly expanded, dispersing large amounts of mist and revealing a glimpse of its size. A tentacle covered in green slime flickered, its presence distorting and warping the space wherever it passed, creating bizarre shapes. The gods were horrified. As the evil god expanded and drew closer, a strong sense of crisis washed over them, causing them to retreat hastily, fearing contact with it. It grew ever larger. 10,000 meters, 1,000,000 meters, 5,000,000 meters. In the end, it seemed to be breaking through the limits of the world, becoming comparable to it. The world trembled, wept, raged, and wanted to strangle the evil god. Fluctuations in the rules appeared, rules flickered in the void, illusory and real rules intertwined. A terrifying power permeated the air, the world exerted its force, forcibly suppressing the nameless entity that wanted to continue expanding and become as large as the world itself. That is, Su-Yun felt the rules appearing in the void, his heart filled with shock. He sensed everything within the rules, including his own rules of light and darkness, which also appeared, but like most rules, they were filled with illusion. Among the complex illusory laws, only a few were truly real. It was precisely those real rules that played a major role in suppressing the situation, making the space more solid, and even the pollution and distortion showed signs of recovery. It seemed that as time passed, the world could expel the distortion on its own. For the first time, Su-Yun felt the power from another world. No wonder. No wonder there is a true God, and this world has not been destroyed yet, because this world was also special. Seemingly angered, the evil god, which occupied 2 or 3/10 of the world, let out a sharp roar. An invisible pressure spread out, and wherever the pressure passed, the space made cracking sounds. The world was shrouded in pressure and trembled a few times. The various tribes and primitive people in the other world became extremely panicked, and even some disturbances appeared on the other side of the world. This is bad, Su-Yun sensed something was wrong. In the distance, the main body flying in the air was swallowed by a black vortex. He appeared in the Yanhuan tribe, the golden ark of the covenant in his hand shone brightly, and a rule enveloped the entire tribe. The black mist dissipated, and most of the evil god's body was revealed. What a magnificent form this was, seemingly containing the endless truths of the world. A dark tumor writhed, its surface teeming with countless open eyes, and numerous black tentacles, stained with the green fluid, swayed on its surface. Drops of fluid fell from the tentacles to the ground, causing the black earth to distort and writhe, about to transform into a grotesque monster. At this moment, the evil god seemed to have a physical form, yet it also seemed not to. The gods only saw the part they understood. Ineffable, indescribable, unbearable to behold. Ordinary beings, let alone approaching, would have their will, soul, and body corrupted and distorted by even a glimpse of it, becoming its loyal servants, corrupted and assimilated. And now, those who approached him, those who saw him, screamed and mutated. Their bodies began to rot, green pus flowing, and countless tiny black tentacles sprouted from every part of their bodies. Eyes were born. Even creatures within the Yanhuang tribe's territory could not escape this calamity. If it weren't for the layer of rules emanating from the Ark of the Covenant resisting them, everyone would have become monsters. The unconscious aftershocks of the evil god's power had almost affected the entire world. Ha! Eerie sounds permeated the air. Vast swathes of space were distorted and warped, and strange chants and prayers echoed in the void, seemingly countless people loudly singing praises. He is the being that roams through chaos, he is the source of distortion, the world submits to his power, he is immortal, he is the only one. Core of 10,000 demons, may your consciousness envelop all things and stars, the void murmured, praising this incredible existence. Amidst the chanting, the core of 10,000 demons' malevolent red eyes moved, scanning up, down, left, and right erratically, brazenly observing the entire world. The 8 ants floating in the distance were naturally discovered by him, and countless eerie eyes instantly looked over. Resurrection screamed. Suyun and the others felt as if they were being seen through, their malicious gazes sweeping over them without restraint. Those gazes were like the lofty heavens and earth, and they were but ants. Under that gaze, Suyun sensed something was wrong, the radiance around him dimmed and turned yellowish. He was about to say something when he turned and noticed the appearance of the other gods, and his heart skipped a beat. Unbeknownst to him, the powerful gods had undergone a terrifying and bizarre change. Tiny tentacles, countless eyes, stained with putrid green pus. And they seemed completely oblivious, as if they hadn't noticed anything. Suyun was horrified and carefully recalled. It seemed that ever since they heard the eerie prayer, their powerful physiques had begun to change, and finally, under the gaze of those eerie eyes, a drastic transformation occurred. A single gaze could possess such power. Suyun's face showed shock. Chapter 478 The True God Appears. Suyun discovered that perhaps due to the power of light, he himself did not undergo the same mutations as the others, but his radiance inexplicably turned yellow, like the fading afterglow. He had a premonition that if that gaze lingered on him for a while longer, he too would suffer the same fate, his body undergoing a strange transformation. Fortunately, this was only an avatar, not the embodiment of the rules. Otherwise, Suyun would have truly feared that his own power would mutate, turning him into an evil god. Under the gaze of the eerie gaze, the trembling gods also noticed something amiss. Our bodies, Resurrection screamed. This scream alerted the others, causing the gods to turn their gaze to themselves, and then they were horrified. This strange change startled them. While horrified, they couldn't help but feel relieved that their true bodies hadn't arrived, otherwise. Just as they were thinking this, Resurrection screamed again, "My true body!" The gods were startled, their expressions changing rapidly. Yanhuang tribe. After Suyun's true body protected the tribe with the Ark of the Covenant, he was about to leave with his small black sphere when he noticed the change in his divine body. His radiance was fading and turning yellow. He was horrified. Fortunately, the body of rules was ultimately different from an incarnation. Large swaths of rule-based light erupted from his body, expelling the strange changes. While breathing a sigh of relief, Suyun suddenly noticed something was wrong. His own dark authority seemed to be malfunctioning. While the light was expelling the strange contamination from his body, the darkness was absorbing it, its authority undergoing a bizarre transformation. Not good. Suyun's expression changed. As the dark authority changed, strange murmurs began to echo in the void, seemingly praising some being. He was born in darkness. The chanting of praise was faint, trying to convey something, but due to the lack of something, it not only sounded unrealistic but also incomplete. Even after the strange changes disappeared, Suyun hadn't heard the complete chanting. His expression shifted, and he carefully examined himself. Aside from discovering that the Dark Authority was changing in an unknown direction, there were no other effects. It seems there are no negative effects. Su-Yun frowned. After a long while, he shook his head, temporarily ignoring the change. A black vortex appeared and swallowed him, his figure returning to its previous position. The gods, initially startled by the transformation of their main body, quickly calmed down, realizing the corruption on their main body wasn't as intense as on their clone. Even their bodies, governed by rules, possessed incredibly strong resistance, so there was no need to worry too much. However, just as they were reassured, countless eerie eyes fixed on them revealed a strange glint. Instantly, a cacophony of murmurs echoed in their ears. Come, come, foolish lives, quickly follow me to worship the great being, offer your spirit and flesh. With these murmurs, Su-Yun and the others became dazed, their thoughts chaotic and distorted, their minds blank, their bodies involuntarily moving closer to the core of myriad demons. Once they got close, they would be assimilated by that indescribable great being, merging with it. Su-Yun's photon consciousness awoke, wanting to rouse him, but someone was faster. Pa! Suddenly, a deep, violent shout rang out. The gods were startled, snapping back to reality once more by the warrior's voice. Disgusting thing, the warrior exclaimed, his face contorted with disgust. Su-Yun glanced at the warrior with a strange look. It was a coincidence, this was the second time. The sea god's manipulation had happened before, and this time, it was the warrior who had awakened the gods again. Something was very wrong with him. Of course, perhaps he wasn't the only one acting strangely. Even though all the gods seemed to have been affected on the surface, Su-Yun's intuition told him that there were definitely some unaffected, simply hiding their true nature. And why they were hiding it, the answer might send chills down one's spine. In comparison, the warrior, seemingly unconcerned and openly displaying his abnormality, appeared quite different. Seemingly enraged by their awakening, the strange, overlapping voice of the myriad demon's core resounded. Foolish insects! Upon hearing the voice, the struggling creatures instantly transformed, even the transformations on Su-Yun and the others intensified. It was about to crush these ungrateful ants. Huge, slimy tentacles lashed out, distorting space and creating howling winds wherever they passed. Before the attack even arrived, the immense pressure bearing down on them struck first, and the gods were horrified to find themselves unable to move. Such a disparity. Just as they were in despair, a sudden change occurred. Crimson light appeared out of nowhere, and another kind of praise and prayer echoed in the void. He is ancient, he is immortal, he is eternal, he is the master of battle and war, the uncrowned king of strife. No one can defeat him, all strife and glory belong to him. Ah! Lord of all strife, supreme being. With these murmured prayers, under the awe-inspiring gaze of the gods, endless crimson light emerged in the sky. As the crimson light converged, a colossal being revealed its true form. An ineffable, gigantic figure, hazy and indescribable, its powerful physique only partially visible within the crimson light. It was as if some kind of phenomenon caused the minds of any mortal who beheld it to become chaotic, their thoughts consumed by madness. This is because Su-Yun and the others had reached the pinnacle of their power and were gods themselves, allowing them to glimpse even a fraction of him. Otherwise, their minds would have been thrown into chaos upon seeing him for the first time. The mutated and bizarre creatures, having inadvertently seen him, went completely mad, losing their last shred of reason. Chaos unfolded across the land. The countless eerie red eyes of the myriad demon core shifted, its waving tentacles changing direction, lashing out fiercely at the blood-red being. Boom! Black and red light flashed, space twisted and shattered, the earth shook. Pieces of the earth cracked open, the aftershocks of the evil god's power spreading outwards. Chaos, distortion, madness, slaughter, terror, brutality, corruption, bizarre transformation, countless creatures were affected, sinking into depravity, finding pleasure in slaughter and madness. The gods, whose bodies were also beginning to mutate, were swept tens of thousands of meters away by the aftershocks of the battle, watching the scene of battle in horror from afar. Su-Yun, enveloped in yellow light and somewhat dizzy, glanced at the warrior with a strange look after seeing the giant. At this moment, a spirit whispered beside him, the core of 10,000 devils, the legendary source of mutated creatures. Wherever he passes through, strange changes occur, giving birth to a large number of mutated creatures. This includes our world, but our world is different, so it is not greatly affected. The source of mutated creatures, you really do know him? The prophecy changed color in horror, his expression becoming wary. Chapter 479 True God Ascension. Facing the wary gazes of the gods, the spirit remained unperturbed, smiling as he said, "If you don't seize this opportunity to advance, you'll miss your chance. Actually, don't worry about me. My goal is the same as yours." Upon hearing this, the prophets realized that their current goal was advancement. However, the spirit's words caused them to hesitate. Was it dangerous? But if they didn't advance and missed this opportunity? Boom! The earth shook violently, and powerful aftershocks spread, forcing the gods to retreat. Just then, a new change occurred. The cracked earth began to heal, the fissures rapidly closing. Moreover, the earth, which had easily cracked under the attacks of the two terrifying beings, became incredibly solid, suffering only minimal damage from the aftershocks. This strange scene instantly attracted the attention of the other gods, who realized something. Another true god has arrived. Sure enough, the next second, a large amount of yellow light seeped from the entire earth, rapidly gathering. At the same time, devout prayers rang out. He is ancient, he is eternal, he was born with the world, he is the eternal earth, the source of all life, Mother Earth, who gives birth to all living beings, the ineffable greatness. Before the awestruck eyes of the gods, endless yellow light coalesced into a slender, hazy deity. Just as the prayer had said, seeing him was like seeing the earth itself. Even his original body was comparable in size to the entire earth, only shrunk to about 2 or 3/10 of its size due to the limitations of the world. Even so, he appeared towering into the clouds, making the gods seem pitifully small in comparison. The moment he appeared, his mouth slightly closed, uttering a name. The complex and mysterious language ultimately condensed into 3 words, Ares. The true name of the true God resounded throughout heaven and earth, as if all mortals were deaf, unable to hear or comprehend it. Even ordinary gods could only vaguely hear and understand a portion. Only those beings who had reached the pinnacle of divinity, such as those who prophesied, could barely hear the whole thing clearly. They were horrified, the name echoing in their minds. Ares, was that the true name of the Crimson God? The moment they thought of the name, a chill ran through them, a feeling of being watched. They instantly realized that anyone who thought of or uttered this name would be noticed by the true being. Terrified, they quickly tried to ignore the name, desperately trying to forget it. The Crimson Giant, engrossed in battle, glanced at the Earth Mother but paid her no heed, continuing his fierce fight with a core of 10,000 demons. The Earth Mother frowned, about to say something, when a black tentacle covered in green slime and emitting a foul stench suddenly appeared from the void, lashing out straight at her chest. Seeing this disgusting tentacle, the Earth Mother could not bear to have it touch her. Boom! He directly joined the battle, determined to crush the disgusting thing. The core of myriad demons, already at a disadvantage, didn't care at all. In his half-mad consciousness, another true god was nothing. One could say he was used to it and fearless. Because no god could truly kill him. To him, this was like a game after awakening. If he lost, he could just sleep some more, wake up, and continue the game. Boom! Tentacles lashed out at the Crimson Giant and the Earth Mother, only to be severed by a crimson spear and a golden scepter. After the black tentacles fell to the ground, large swathes of earth were corrupted and altered, writhing and about to turn into monsters. If the Earth Mother hadn't seen this and restricted the changes in the earth, a whole bunch of monsters would have appeared and rampaged across the land. As the earth solidified, the sky suffered, large swathes of space shattered under their swings, a scene of utter devastation. Under these circumstances, the master of the surrounding sky naturally wouldn't stand idly by. The sky began to churn. An invisible, colorless yet vaguely outlined entity writhed across the entire sky, seemingly existing in the realm between reality and illusion. Its overwhelming presence served as a stark reminder of an incomprehensible and immense being. The sky cheered, sang, and prayed, rejoicing at its arrival. With its arrival, the sky was reinforced. Large swathes of space, easily shattered by the attacks of the 3 great beings, instantly transformed. During the attacks, countless dark cracks appeared, but they proved impenetrable. With the appearance of the ruler of the sky, the world trembled even more violently. Even the true gods of that continent are attracted, Su Yun murmured to himself. While awestruck by the power of the true gods, he couldn't help but feel a longing, an irresistible urge to advance. He glanced at the resurrected ones, noticing the still hesitant expressions on their faces. He then glanced at the myriad demon core, completely outmatched by the 3 true gods, seemingly on the verge of being defeated. He couldn't help but remind them, if we don't advance now, Once the core of 10,000 demons is defeated, we can forget about advancing, and we might even be purged by the true gods. Upon hearing this, the prophet gods felt a chill, and a sense of urgency appeared on their faces. No god was a fool. Everyone knew the consequences of being the first to act, but the situation with a core of 10,000 demons was truly dire. At this moment, the observer laughed. Since none of you want to be the first, then I'll do it. The gods looked at him in astonishment, knowing that being the first was the most dangerous. The observer. Just as they were marveling, a strange fluctuation suddenly appeared from the world, immediately attracting their attention. The rules were in motion. The observer really. Several resurrected gods were utterly astonished. The movement of the rules immediately attracted the attention of all those who had comprehended the rules, including the true gods. Who's so bold? The gods from all over the world were astonished. Someone is advancing to true godhood. The three true gods and one evil god, who were currently fighting, paused, their faces slightly puzzled, and then they realized something was wrong. This fluctuation. Before they could figure it out, another fluctuation appeared. Resurrection hesitated for a moment, thinking that the most dangerous tasks had been handled by the observer, so what was there to fear? She gritted her teeth. A life force swept across the world, filling it with vitality. Something had merged into it. Among countless illusory rules, the previously illusory rules of life were now becoming real. The rules became more dynamic, and the world cheered, as if celebrating the birth of another true god. However, Resurrection's heart skipped a beat, a sense of unease rising within her. She sensed that the effect she had created was somewhat different from what the observer had caused before. Subconsciously, she turned to look at the observer, who, shrouded in mist, also looked over. Although she couldn't see the observer's face, Resurrection had a feeling that the observer was definitely smiling. Her heart skipped a beat. She wanted to question him. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 480 Ascension to True God and Crisis. Suyun and the others also sensed some differences. The resurrected advancement felt more real, while the observed advancement seemed illusory. However, they couldn't think too much about it at this point. Regardless of what the observed advancement was like, the resurrected advancement was definitely real. Now that someone had stepped forward, if they didn't start advancing soon, the plan would completely fail. Without exchanging ideas, they all began advancing simultaneously. Waves of rule fluctuations appeared, the rules of the world began to stir, and several illusory rules became real. In the distance, Suyun's main body took out a large pile of level 9 faith crystals. More than 27,000 level 9 faith crystals, like a mountain, had just appeared when a vast wave of faith power appeared, causing ripples to spread across the void. The next second, the mountain of faith crystals shattered, and a vast sea of faith power surged out, about to form a sea of faith that would blot out the sky. However, the appearance of the devouring vortex stopped their surge. As if drawn by a black hole, they flowed backward into the vortex. As they disappeared, a figure radiating black and white light appeared. The power of faith transformed into a vast amount of divine power, becoming the driving force behind the blessing spell. Blessing spell, enhanced fortune, amplified strength. A dazzling radiance appeared on his body. Profound and complex fluctuations of destiny descended, his fortune surged, influencing the world's operation. Simultaneously, his all-around strength rapidly increased. 100 times, 300 times, 900 times, more than 27,000 crystals of faith transformed into a strength amplification of nearly 900 times. A terrifying aura surrounded him, threatening to engulf the world in the next second. Fortunately, Suyun controlled it at the crucial moment, otherwise the entire world would have trembled and felt it. However, despite his efforts to contain the aura, it was too immense, only able to be confined to a few meters around him. Affected by his aura, space and light began to distort, and coupled with the black and white light, everything appeared chaotic and blurry. Sensing the emergence of countless rules in the world, Suyun murmured to himself, "A true god." The next second, he released his restrictions and began his ascension. In an instant, Suyun felt his divine body about to dissipate, transforming into endless light and eternal darkness. And this was not an illusion. His body dissipated, dispersing into endless light and darkness, which swept across the entire world in the blink of an eye. Strands of light and darkness appeared, and a scene of light and darkness merging appeared in the world. Every living being in the world was stunned. The world cheered, sang, rejoiced, and welcomed the arrival of the uncrowned king of light and darkness. The upheaval of rules and the appearance of strange phenomena left every conscious being and God dumbfounded. Of course, there were also some special beings who knew what was happening. The rules of light and darkness, and others, every true God who had comprehended the rules noticed it. However, at this moment, their actions were different. The true God's eyes turned cold, while the rare beings who had comprehended the rules were overjoyed. No God is a fool. How could they possibly miss such a golden opportunity? This is the moment with the highest success rate to become a true God. One by one, beings began their ascension. Among them was one who observed the battlefield from afar, seemingly vanished into thin air. Unless witnessed firsthand, no one would have noticed him. He was the possessor of a hidden authority. A true God among the banquet members, his face showed surprise, mixed with lingering fear. As a former banquet member, he had discovered the presence of true gods within the banquet, possibly more than just one or two, and in his fear, he had discarded the banquet artifacts. He never expected to encounter banquet members again. The fighting crimson giant terrified him, resembling one of the members he suspected. He was thankful for his foresight in discarding the artifact early on. But now, faced with such a golden opportunity, after hesitating for a few moments, he decided to take the risk. A fluctuation of rules appeared. While those guys reacted quickly, the true gods reacted even faster. Boom, boom, boom. Black tentacles danced, gales howled, and cracks appeared in space. Except for the core of myriad demons, which continued its frenzied attack, the crimson giant Ares, the Earth Mother, the Lord of the Sky, and the three true gods paused. A feast for the true gods. The Earth Mother glanced at the few small insects in the distance, a strange smile on her face. A yellow clone was split off and sent flying. But even a clone was not something ordinary gods could handle, even those who had comprehended the rules. The difference between true gods was unimaginable. The Earth Mother was confident. The Lord of the Sky and the Crimson Giant also created clones. With a spatial ripple, their entire bodies vanished, and they went to the location where the rules were sensed. The gods in the distance had various expressions. Resurrection angrily questioned, "Observer, you, Su-Yun and the other gods looked over, their faces wary. You're not pretending anymore." The warrior looked at Observer, who was hidden in the mist, and laughed disdainfully. Knowing that he was suspected, Observer had no intention of hiding any longer. "Aren't you the same?" His voice was full of laughter as he glanced meaningfully at the Crimson Giant. "I'm not like you," the warrior snorted disdainfully. "You?" The gods looked at them in fear. Just then, Resurrection screamed, her face showing terror. "Observer, no. You won't get your way." She was resolute, her despair revealing a look of utter self-destruction. "Why resist?" Observer looked at Resurrection coldly. Unlike his usual kind voice, this time his voice contained a condescending tone. Under the astonished gazes of the gods, Resurrection gave a miserable smile, his form beginning to blur, wisps of light appearing as if his avatar was about to dissipate. "You want to turn me into your avatar? Dream on, you'll get nothing," Resurrection roared resentfully. The gods' expressions changed, they understood from his words alone. "That's a real pity," Observer said dismissively, instead laughing. "Anyway, you're not the only target. I don't believe they can react as quickly as you." With that, under the gods' bewildered gazes, his form suddenly began to vanish. Suddenly, a pair of enormous silver eyes appeared in the sky, coldly gazing at the gods below. At the same time, prayers of praise and admiration echoed in the void. "Great immortal, great eternal one, he is all-seeing, he observes the world. He looks down upon all things, under his gaze, nothing can escape his sight. Ah! Great all-seeing one, thanks to Black Cat in the Rain for the 500 coin reward, thank you for the 100 coin reward." Chapter 481 The Exposed Banquet Members. True God, staring at the pair of silver eyes in the sky, the prophet and the others were terrified. It was actually a true God. Under the gaze of those eyes, a feeling of being stared at by something terrifying washed over them, and a chill ran down their spines. At this moment, the eyes in the sky shifted slightly, as if examining something. "This is truly unexpected, there are quite a few hidden among us," a complex and mysterious voice echoed throughout heaven and earth, resounding in the ears of the gods. As it spoke, the eyes lowered again, coldly staring at them. Just as the prophet and the others were filled with doubt, the voice of the all-seeing one continued. The end, the spirit, the prophet, the inverted one, Suyun, and the dissipating resurrection all changed their expressions, instantly realizing something. Even the warriors cast surprised glances at them. This wasn't a banquet, it was clearly a den of the true God. Don't look at me. I've already said, my purpose is the same as yours, the spirit said. Instead of worrying about me, you should worry about the end and the others. Seemingly amused by his words, the ethereal and complex voice continued. You, possessing the authority of a soul, are not content. You created an independent divine avatar, seeking to seize and devour authority. The devouring rules, gradually becoming real in the world, were clearly discerned by the all-seeing one. His intentions exposed, the spirit's expression turned cold. Don't stop me, or I will release the seal. You haven't forgotten that the seal that kept the sea god sealed for so long was entirely due to the seal formed by my true form. You also contributed when he was sealed. You want him to come out. The god's expressions changed. With just a few words, they had already analyzed many things. The spirit was actually a true god of the soul. Suyun thought, the true god of the spirit seems to be restricted, but it's no wonder. The sea god wasn't the core of 10,000 demons, capable of being sealed by a mere divine artifact. To keep him sealed indefinitely, perhaps only another true god could hold him off, or even require the assistance of other true gods. Faced with the spirit's threat, the sky near the all-seeing one's eyes darkened, fully displaying his sinister heart. Although he desperately wanted to kill the spirit body, the threat it posed made him wary. He didn't want another enemy constantly causing trouble. With these concerns, he hesitated slightly and abandoned the idea of eliminating the spirit avatar. After all, there were so many targets, and he had promised not to attack the spirit, but the other true gods might not be so sure. He didn't think the spirit could withstand attacks from the other true gods. Skipping the spirit, his gaze turned to the end. This guy hadn't received any new authority advancement, nor had he even made a move with his true god form. This passive observation made him wary. After the end, he looked at prophecy, secret, and inversion. At this moment, prophecy's face paled. His body began to disintegrate, scattering into countless fragments. Lost, he wore a bitter expression, a mixture of laughter and tears. Relying on his remaining strength, he could barely survive a short while longer. A complex look flashed in his eyes as he sighed. Prophecy, a cold voice echoed from the sky. He ran fast, and I had to look for him several times. This prophecy was indeed as slippery as a fish. Several times his clones tried to approach, but he avoided them in advance. If it weren't for the all-seeing authority and some preparations, he would have really escaped. Faced with such an attack from a true god, who could withstand it? The resurrection, which would soon disappear, cried out in despair, "We lost. No one can advance successfully, no one." Suddenly, the warrior shouted without thinking, "Secret, you're a true god too, right?" Instantly, all eyes turned to Secret. Facing the despairing gazes of the resurrection and prophecy, Suyun shook his head. What? It wasn't just the prophecy and resurrection that were stunned. Even the warriors and the other true gods showed surprise in their eyes, somewhat unable to believe it. All along, Secret had left a deep impression on them, both in terms of mystery and vast knowledge, completely comparable to all-seeing. Yet, the one the gods suspected most likely to be a true god was actually just a god who had comprehended the rules but had not yet advanced. The warrior, the end, the spirit, and others stared at Secret in astonishment. At this moment, a voice full of laughter came from the all-seeing one in the sky. Secret, you're not a true god on disguise. This is truly beyond my expectations. No, that's not right. The authority of light and darkness. How did you do that? The all-seeing one seemed to have seen something unbelievable. You're not even a true god. How did you manage to possess two authorities? What? A dumbfounded expression appeared on the faces of prophecy and resurrection, and even the warriors' several true god avatars were very surprised. An ordinary god possessing two authorities, this was something even they, as true gods, found somewhat incomprehensible. How was this possible? Moreover, it was the contradictory yet incredibly powerful authority of light and darkness. No, I can't let him succeed. The all-seeing one's mood darkened. If he succeeded, with his two top-tier authorities, Secret could directly leap to the same level of divine power as him. This was something he absolutely could not allow. In front of all the gods, he created another avatar shrouded in mist, But just as he was about to control the avatar to deal with secret, an unexpected scene surprised him. A god had arrived there first, wondering what abilities this hidden being possessed. The all-seeing one didn't immediately go, intending to observe the hidden being's methods. Since advancement required considerable time, and the confidence derived from his strength allowed him to easily defeat the hidden being, he had the leisure to observe. All-seeing one, what are you doing? The spirit asked. He had initially thought the clone had been sent to deal with the hidden being, but it had stopped in mid-air, seemingly doing nothing. The all-seeing one glanced at the spirit, then suddenly had an idea. Using his all-seeing authority, a remarkably realistic scene appeared before the gods. The scene in the image stunned them for a moment, then they instantly understood. Suyun, who had been immersed in the light and darkness of his avatar, was brought back to his senses by the sudden warning. He saw a handsome god, tens of thousands of meters tall, dressed entirely in white, appearing very noble, flying rapidly from afar. A terrifying aura far surpassing that of a ninth-level rule god surrounded him. With his movement, the void itself distorted under the influence of this aura. This is a subordinate deity of the Earth Mother, the spirit said, frowning. The warriors, the true gods, suddenly understood, even the prophet realized something. Subordinate deities are those who submit to other true gods, far more powerful than ninth-level gods who have comprehended the rules, but in the eyes of true gods, they are still ant-like beings. Although they have advanced, they are not considered true gods. They have lost the ineffable, unseen, indescribable, and even immortal characteristics of true gods. They don't even possess the inexhaustible power of true gods. It can be said that they are completely incompatible with true gods. To put it bluntly, if there were 10th-level gods, they would be them, and their advancement hadn't even brought about a qualitative change in strength. They are nothing but trash. In the eyes of true gods, they are ants, beings that can be crushed at will. But, just like an 8th-level god facing a 9th-level god, even a 9th-level rule god would only face defeat. The hidden danger is imminent, Resurrection said despairingly. Indeed, advancing to true godhood is a pipe dream. How could any god possibly succeed in advancing? The prophet sighed. They gazed at the hidden one beside them with complex expressions, saddened by their fate and knowing that it wouldn't be long before he met the same end. The warrior frowned, a flicker of hesitation crossing his face. He still held a good impression of the hidden one, unsure whether to save him. The spirit and the end watched coldly, seemingly enjoying the spectacle. They weren't warriors who would be swayed by the hidden one's apparent strength. To them, the hidden one was merely an ordinary being. Boom, boom, boom. The warriors, while battling the aftershocks of the distant battle, intently watched the scene unfold. Upon sensing the presence, Suyun reacted swiftly. Where light and darkness had previously dispersed, a sudden change occurred. As black and white converged, his divine body materialized. Suyun felt that his own rules were still merging with the world. If he could delay any longer, his ascension would be successful. However, the arrival of the enemy forced him to remove his body. Fortunately, the ascension was still underway. Of course, he had considered maintaining that state of merging with heaven and earth, but he didn't think it would be that simple. If it were truly that easy to ascend to true godhood, then something truly amiss. They probably possess some means to create their own body or consciousness. Thinking this, the being from afar arrived. Haha. What do I see? Upon arriving, this being was overjoyed, his face beaming with extreme delight. A god in the process of ascension. If he could capture him alive and hand him over to the Earth Mother, his eyes lit up. Wait, this aura of rules. Suddenly, he noticed something, staring in astonishment at the light emanating from Suyun. Light and darkness. Sensing the aura of rules in the world, his face paled in shock. A god possessing two powers, and such top-tier powers at that. Although he didn't understand, it didn't stop jealousy from consuming his heart. Why? A mere 9th-level god possesses two powers, and is even ascending. I must stop him. Jealousy and excitement filled his heart. The thought of a freak with two powers about to be defeated by him filled him with immense excitement. Moreover, this guy might end up like me. If he were to become a subordinate god, even if he were incredibly powerful, he would be forever barred from becoming a true god, and might even lose his freedom, confined to the divine realm by the true god. After all, they were a group of guys who had lost their potential, so how could they be allowed to wreak havoc on those unripe fruits in the world? This was something no true god would allow. Come here. A giant hand covered the sky, grabbing fiercely at the ant-sized creature. A howling wind swept across, and a powerful pressure slammed down on Su-Yun. "Tremble under my divine might," he laughed triumphantly, not thinking anything of it. Even if this guy possessed two powers, how could he possibly defeat him, a half-true god? If he thought this, the hand was about to grab its target. Su-Yun stared at the harmless hand before him, his eyes flickering. The photon system rapidly calculated. 50%. 50% of the advancement was complete. "I'll play along with you," Su-Yun decided to stall for time. Chapter 482 Gamma Ray Burst. The giant, who had confidently swung his palm, froze, his expression blank. The little creature had actually escaped from his grasp. Thinking it was an accident, he continued his grabbing towards Su-Yun. Boom! A gust of wind swept through, and his hand was in front of Su-Yun in the blink of an eye. Little thing, his face contorted with rage, he froze again. At the crucial moment, this god of light and darkness had once again dodged his attack. Unwilling to accept defeat, he tried several more times, but each attempt failed, especially the last time when he even unleashed his white divine power. He thought the little creature would be frozen in his divine power, unable to move, and completely at his mercy. But the result was unexpected. The divine power shattered, and it easily broke free. This scene surprised not only him, but also the warriors watching. Despite losing its potential as a subordinate god, its strength still far surpasses that of a 9th-level rule god. The Hidden One's abilities were surprisingly. He had initially thought the Hidden One's strength was merely decent, but it turned out it had concealed so much. The all-seeing one's eyes darkened, a sense of unease creeping into his heart. However, his identity as a true god forced him to suppress this unease. He considered it merely a relatively strong ant. Even if it possessed great strength, it meant nothing to a true god. Thinking this, he also coveted the rules of light and darkness, wanting to obtain those two authority. With these authority, he could certainly compensate for his lack of offensive power, perhaps even leaping to the top level of great divine power. The all-seeing one's eyes burned with fervor. Too much time has passed, I can't delay any longer. Thinking this, he prepared to transfer his avatar there. However, just as this thought arose, an unexpected scene unfolded. Or rather, a scene that stunned all the gods. The battlefield. The moment Su-Yun, the all-seeing one, conceived the idea, a strong sense of crisis arose in his heart, as if some danger was about to strike. In the state of the rules merging with the world and the blessing spell, this feeling was incredibly intense. He glanced at the enraged giant, who was preparing to continue his attack, and instinctively launched his own. The pressure of distorted space was released, pressing directly on the white giant, causing his body to stiffen and tremble, his expression frozen. "This divine power, impossible," the white giant exclaimed, his face filled with disbelief. Then, the next second, his eyes widened in terror. The sky had darkened, as if returning to the primordial chaos. Then the darkness was banished, and light returned. Unfortunately, this light was a death knell for the white giant. He lowered his head blankly. Wisps of gray dust appeared on his body, swirling in the air, before vanishing into nothingness. He tried to save himself, even using the rules to expel the anomaly from his body. However, the moment he tried, he felt a power far beyond his own. Under this power, he suddenly felt insignificant. How can a 9th-level god possess such power? He cried out in shock and anger. This was still a 9th-level god, even with two authorities, yet why did such intense jealousy and regret fill his heart? Seeing Hidden Secret instantly kill a subordinate god startled all the gods. They had thought they had overestimated Hidden Secret, but they had clearly underestimated him. Although the subordinate god was weak, he was still nearly 100 times stronger than a 9th-level rule god, and he was so easily killed. Is it possible for Hidden Secret to? The soon-to-be vanished Resurrection suddenly felt a glimmer of hope. It didn't matter that she had failed, but she hoped that a god would break the seal of the true gods. Just then, spatial fluctuations appeared where the all-seeing avatar was. It disappeared from its original spot and reappeared where Hidden Secret was. Seeing this, Resurrection and Prophecy felt disheartened. The two true god avatars, Spirit and End, smiled, feeling that everything should end. The moment the figure, shrouded in terrifying aura, appeared, it immediately attracted the attention of Su-Yun and the giant. The white-robed giant recognized it as an avatar of a true god, and his face lit up with joy. He cried out to the omniscient avatar shrouded in mist, "Your Majesty, true god, save me. I am the earth. He reached out, trying to get the true god's help. However, after the omniscient glanced at him, his expression froze, his body, which was turning to dust, exploded, then scattered into a radiant light of rules and was erased. Before his consciousness faded, the white giant was filled with resentment. Why? True God, I hate you. And that guy, you will suffer the same fate as me. Very decisively, this previously invincible being was erased after just one glance from the omniscient. A terrifying power, and this was just an avatar. Not only did Su Yun's expression change slightly, but prophecy, resurrection, and inversion also showed fear on their faces, feeling despair for the Hidden One. After dealing with the troublesome insects, the all-seeing one turned away without a second thought, looking down at Su Yun with an air of superiority. Not bad, he couldn't help but praise, seemingly appreciating the hidden strength. However, Su Yun sensed a strong malice. The all-seeing one was in a good mood. The more powerful this hidden one was, the more powerful he would become once he seized his authority. He was very satisfied and delighted. In his eyes, this hidden one was already his for the taking. How could a 9th-level god struggle against a true god? Thinking this, he made his move. Su Yun felt the space around him solidify, as if turning from water into stone, severely imprisoning him. Spatial ability, the all-seeing one said calmly, you know nothing of the power of a true god. Then, he laughed, offer your body to me. You should be proud. As soon as he finished speaking, Su Yun immediately felt his consciousness sink, a powerful consciousness invading him, trying to seize his body. Boom! A powerful burst of light and darkness erupted. Nearly 900 times stronger, plus the combined power of 2 divine bodies, this power was incredibly strong, even loosening the previously solidified space. The all-seeing one was astonished, amazed by the power he unleashed, which had actually broken his confinement. Even a weak avatar of a true god shouldn't be able to break free, and although it was only a slight escape, it was still astonishing. Can't break free, Su Yun's expression was grave. The gap is so huge, 70% of his advancement complete. His mind raced, and he sighed inwardly. He had originally intended to save the gamma ray burst for the true god, but now it seemed he had been delusional. Without much thought, the next second, extreme white light emanated from him, and a vast energy surge erupted. The world trembled, and all the gods were drawn to the power erupting from this side. Boom! A white pillar of light, blotting out the sky, rushed towards the all-seeing one at the speed of light. Chapter 483 Another true god descends. The all-seeing one was completely caught off guard, or rather, unprepared, leaving no time to dodge. He was engulfed by the ocean of gamma-ray bursts. A strange sight appeared in the sky. A pillar of light continued its trajectory towards the astral plane, its white energy waves obscuring the entire sky, like a milky white film. In the ocean of gamma-ray bursts, the astonished all-seeing one felt countless rays of light pierce through him, the light, heat, and extreme destructive power causing his avatar to begin dissolving and vaporizing. His avatar vanished completely. All the gods on the continent noticed this light and the scene of it engulfing the true god's avatar. Whether ordinary gods or true gods, their faces showed emotion. The Earth Mother, the Crimson Giant, the Lord of the Sky, the All-Seeing One, the Spirit, the End, and the beings lurking in the shadows all looked at Su Yun with astonishment and doubt. The power of this attack was infinitely close to that of a true god. Unbelievable. A 9th-level rule god, using power approaching that of a true god, the Earth Mother exclaimed with a strange expression. Although incredible, the disappearance of the Omniscient One's avatar perfectly demonstrated the extent of that power. After all, no matter how strong the Omniscient One's avatar was, if it were struck by another true god without warning, its avatar would undoubtedly die. Even if the Omniscient One was careless, it still succeeded. Even if its avatar was weak, it would still require true god-level power to destroy it. The warrior's eyes lit up, a sense of eagerness rising within him. The spirit's face was gloomy, lost in thought. The End's expression was unreadable. The resurrected figure, whose form was blurred and seemed like it would vanish with a gust of wind, couldn't help but think, the secret was truly well hidden. Saying they couldn't break the artifact's seal was clearly a pretense. If anyone could become a true god, perhaps only he could. At this moment, one by one, the ascending 9th-level rule gods perished, and the rules that were becoming real in the world gradually faded away. Now, only 4 rules remained to become real. Besides a special rule that attracted much attention, there was another extremely obscure rule, and the remaining 2, light and darkness, were concentrated on the existence that astonished the gods. Not only did it possess strength, but it also possessed two authorities, which made some gods unable to suppress a thought: could this one be able to ascend to true godhood? They couldn't help but think this way. This light and darkness god was simply too powerful, actually able to unleash power close to that of a true god. Just then, another rule disappeared from the void. The gods were startled, and upon closer inspection, they discovered that it was the extremely obscure rule. Then, a sigh of unwillingness drifted through the air. Where the possessor of the hidden authority had vanished, a yellow figure disappeared. An avatar of the Mother Earth. Now, only two remain in the world, still advancing. HMPH, very good. A mysterious and complex voice resounded throughout the heavens and earth, leaving the surviving beings in a blank state. The all-seeing one is preparing to make his move, a god sighed. In the end, will none of them succeed in this advancement? An oppressive and disparate atmosphere weighed on the hearts of the gods on the continent. The advancement process was nearly 90% complete. At the same time, Su-Yun felt an unprecedented crisis, a feeling of impending annihilation. He naturally heard the all-seeing one's voice as well, and his expression turned grim. The avatar is just stronger, the true form, so well prepared, yet there's only one outcome. Just as he was thinking this, an unexpected scene unfolded. A sudden change occurred on the clone side. Just as the all-seeing one was about to teleport there, spatial fluctuations appeared, and a golden figure appeared in the battlefield of the myriad demon caller. Inverted, Su-Yun felt astonished and looked over. Inverted seemed to be dodging something. Sure enough, the next second, a figure shrouded in mist appeared. It was another clone of the all-seeing one. Just as he was about to crush the hidden all-seeing one, a look of surprise flashed across his face. Because Inverted controlled the spatial authority, spatial confinement was useless against him, and he was running very fast. But he was about to succeed, but unexpectedly. Surprised that he dared to run this way, it seemed he wanted to die even faster. He temporarily ignored the secret and decided to seize the spatial authority first. His silver eyes shifted slightly, a gaze falling on Inverted, imprisoning him. Inverted tried to resist, but against the true god's form, his resistance was insignificant. Even his special abilities were ineffective. Boom boom boom. Inverted, in the true god battlefield, looked on with despair. However, just as he despaired, and the all-seeing one thought he had succeeded, several attacks struck simultaneously, breaking the all-seeing one's imprisonment. The all-seeing one roared, "Mother Earth, you, the Mother Earth," while fighting the core of 10,000 demons, laughed, "Sorry, I've also set my sights on the special authority. Originally, she wanted to find the special authority, and now that something has been delivered to her doorstep, how could she possibly ignore it? After all, this is the spatial authority. Among all the authorities, it ranks among the top, and even she, as a true god, couldn't resist being tempted." The Lord of the Sky had similar thoughts, and as for the God of War, besides having some unavoidable thoughts, he was mostly just annoyed by those who wanted to disrupt his plans. Even the core of myriad demons contributed to this, but he didn't have so many ulterior motives and simply did as he pleased. In an instant, it became a hot commodity. While Su-Yun, the past was temporarily ignored. After all, one was far away and the other was near, the closer one would naturally be chosen. Of course, the power of spatial authority was also a factor. Su-Yun was somewhat bewildered, marveling at his luck. Just then, a sudden murmur of prayer echoed in the void. The void cheered, rejoiced, and welcomed the arrival of a great being. Praise and hymns resounded. He is immortal, he is eternal, he is the ineffable one who roams the river of time, in the past, in the present, and in the future. His presence is everywhere. Time flows because of him, time stops because of him. Supreme Lord of Time. As the praise and prayers resounded, the faces of all the true gods changed. The Ouroboros of Time, in a daze, the gods seemed to see a giant serpent coiled in a river, or perhaps the river itself was the serpent. Its mouth held its tail, forming a ring. At this moment, the giant serpent opened its eyes, casting a cold gaze upon them. Chapter 484 The Ouroboros of Time. The Ouroboros, all the true gods' eyes turned solemn as they gazed at the giant serpent. As a great being wielding the power of time, the Ouroboros of Time was among the most powerful beings, even among the true gods, possessing terrifying strength. No, rather than terrifying, it was the unpredictable and powerful nature of the power of time. What does it want? Could it be trying to seize the power of space? The gods analyzed its purpose. naturally considering this most likely possibility. After all, time and space have always been inextricably linked. Their expressions changed. Sure enough, the next second, the Ouroboros of time opened its mouth wide, lunging at Inverted with incredible speed, as if to devour him. Stop it! Without hesitation, except for the core of myriad demons, everyone attacked the Ouroboros. Boom! 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 The enormous serpent's eyes were cold, glancing at the incoming divine power, its huge tongue flicking out, uttering mysterious and complex words. Time stopped. The howling wind ceased, and the ordinary gods, who had been filled with terror, froze in place. Everything stopped moving, like something sealed in amber, exuding an eerie aura. However, this did not include the true gods. Their immense power allowed them to break free from the constraints of time, and their bodies could still move somewhat normally. Of course, although they could still move, their movements became much slower, and even several divine attacks they unleashed were frozen in midair. A triumphant smile flashed in the eyes of the Ouroboros of time. Seeing that he was about to devour the special gods, the Earth Mother and the Sky Lord, who understood the situation, all showed expressions of shock and anger. No, he cannot be allowed to obtain special authority. This was their shared thought at this moment. This damned foreign god, the Earth Mother gritted her teeth. This Ouroboros of time was originally a true god from the outside world, and now it even dared to plot to seize control of space. This serpent was already at the pinnacle of great divine power. If it obtained control of space, all the true gods could foresee what would happen next. With control of space-time, it might be able to ascending to the legendary Supreme Divine Power. The Supreme Divine Power rumored to be able to do everything, omniscient and omnipotent. At that time, no god could stop it from doing whatever it wanted, and the world might even be destroyed. In an instant, all the true gods present, and the hidden ones, were all preparing to use their trump cards to stop the Ouroboros. However, before they could even hesitate, a huge blood-red spear shot out from the void, piercing straight into the Ouroboros's massive body. Boom! Space distorted and shattered, and a violent torrent of space-time swept through. The Ouroboros of time groaned in pain, its star-like body sent flying backward. Time resumed its flow. God of War, the Ouroboros's eyes revealed fury. Most of the other gods used divine power or magic to attack, but this God of War preferred to use brute force, and he dared to ruin his plans. Damn it! Just then, a scene that astonished the true gods appeared, and even the Ouroboros of time was stunned. A black divine power exuding an aura of impending doom suddenly appeared from the void behind Inverted. Boom! Under the power of the true gods, Inverted didn't even have time to react, and his entire body dissolved into special rules. Ripples of space continued to drift in the air, spreading throughout the entire sky in the blink of an eye. Inverted had fallen. The Earth Mother and the other true gods were overjoyed, while the Ouroboros of time was furious. He recognized the divine power carrying the aura of the impending doom of all things. The Lord of the impending doom of all things. Seeing the joyful expressions on the faces of the true gods, he sneered, "You underestimate me." His huge forked tongue extended, uttering mysterious syllables. Backflow. As soon as the words fell, a scene that shocked the gods appeared. At the place of Inverted death, time froze for a moment, then, like a videotape playing in reverse, everything rapidly reversed. The ripples of special rules contracted, and the inverted entity was reassembled from the scattered rules, its body reformed, and the power of the end flowed back. The inverted entity returned to before its death. The gods were awestruck by this immense power. The true gods' faces were grim. The dead special deity had actually been resurrected? The power of time was indeed troublesome. Suyun's avatar was utterly astonished, marveling at the immense power of the authority of time. Then, an even more unacceptable scene unfolded. The Ouroboros of time suddenly linked head to tail, creating what appeared to be a long river of time. Suddenly, two phantom figures appeared on either side of the Ouroboros of time, then gradually solidified. The three giant serpents, linked head to tail, looked at the gods with mockery in their eyes. Past, present, future, the Earth Mother murmured gravely, analyzing what had happened. This serpent had actually summoned figures from the past and future, effectively turning one true god into three. With a cold laugh, the three giant serpents simultaneously lunged to devour and bite in the inverted direction. Seeing this, the other true gods, all possessing great divine power, naturally dared not hold back any longer. In perfect unison, the Earth Mother, the Sky Lord, and the God of War each chose a single giant serpent to fight. Of course, The troublemaker, the core of myriad demons, was also present. It didn't care, adopting an attitude of not helping anyone and attacking everywhere, much to the disgust of both sides. Boom. Space tore apart, the earth shattered, and wherever the attack swept through, everything turned to dust. The world wailed, the sounds of collapse weaving together a mournful lament. Had it not been for the reinforcement of the sky and earth, and the protection of the world's rules, the entire world would have been destroyed in the aftershocks of the battle. This was only because of the special nature of this other world. In an ordinary world, it would have long since turned to dust. Suyun was somewhat alarmed and puzzled. Why didn't the Ouroboros turn back time to before the true gods grew up? Wouldn't it have been able to crush them at will, despite the fierce battle? He had never seen Ouroboros do this before. It seems my guess might be right, the true gods do indeed have some countermeasures. He would know once the ascension was complete. Thinking of this, Suyun checked the progress of his ascension and suppressed his excitement. 98%. Just then, inverted fell once more, and time and his location was manipulated again, beginning to flow backward. Suyun silently hid in a corner, quietly watching the true god's performance, trying to minimize his presence, while also mourning inverted. How tragic must it be to die and be resurrected, only to die again? Suddenly, something occurred to him. Where is the all-seeing one? Suyun's expression changed drastically, and his attention immediately turned to his true form. Suyun, who was immersed in his ascension, was jolted awake and began to carefully sense his surroundings. Sure enough, a faint sense of danger emanated from a seemingly empty location. If it weren't for his fusion with the world and the subtle senses brought by the blessing spell, he truly wouldn't have noticed. It was as if the world itself had intervened, instinctively warning him. It couldn't be more obvious. It was truly well hidden. What was he planning to do at the very last moment of his ascension, and then strike? Suyun tried hard to maintain his expression, pretending he hadn't noticed anything, and continued to immerse himself in the feeling of ascension. However, secretly, he focused his attention on the gamma ray god slaying technique and the small black sphere. 99%. Finally, at the very last moment, a powerful fluctuation of rules instantly returned to the entire world, awakening all the ordinary gods and astonishing even the true gods. It's him. The gods immediately realized who it was. Even the true gods like the Ouroboros of time looked over. Arriving at the last moment, Suyun, without a second thought, attacked the hiding place of the all-seeing one. Gamma ray burst. Boom. A dense, vast beam of light shot straight up. As soon as Suyun unleashed the attack, he couldn't help but feel fortunate that his actions were swift. Because the very next second after the attack was launched, a strong sense of crisis arose. Clearly, the all-seeing one was preparing to strike. But he was a little too late. A hint of surprise flashed in the all-seeing one's hazy silver eyes, clearly not expecting that the hidden one could discover his hiding place. This shouldn't be. How could a 9th-level rule god discover him? However, in his confusion, he didn't have time to think further and focused on facing the attack before him. HMPH, the all-seeing one scoffed. A mere attack approaching the power of a true god. How little did he take him seriously? Approaching was ultimately just approaching. The indescribable silver eyes flickered slightly, staring directly at the gamma ray burst. Under the influence of an invisible force, the gamma ray burst stopped and then quickly dissipated. He watched the hidden world with a cold smile and indifference. Your divine body is mine. As soon as he finished speaking, an unprecedented crisis struck Suyun. His heart sank. He had a premonition that he would complete his final ascension in just 2 or 3 seconds. But his consciousness sank, and a vast, boundless consciousness, carrying immense pressure that suffocated him, instantly descended upon his body. The power of light and darkness is mine, the all-seeing one rejoiced, his eyes filled with triumphant smiles. At the same time, he felt a certain disdain for the Ouroboros of time and the like. So many gods were vying for a special authority, yet they abandoned the authority of light and darkness. How foolish was that? Perhaps a single light or darkness might be slightly inferior to a special authority, but the two combined were a different story. Especially the power of the attack unleashed by the hidden entity, which gave the all-seeing one a premonition that he might have underestimated the power of the authority of light and darkness. No matter how strong the special authority was, being able to unleash an attack approaching that of a true god was a different matter. As he pondered, the all-seeing one grew increasingly delighted, already imagining that after obtaining the authority of light and darkness, the Earth Mother, the god of war, and the Ouroboros would all be defeated by him. However, Just as he was excited and about to seize the hidden entity's body, the entire world froze. Everything stopped, including the true gods, who were unable to move for a second. Time stopped. A giant serpent radiating time fluctuations appeared where the all-seeing one and Su-Yun were. "He is mine." The Ouroboros of Time's eyes flashed with mockery as it glanced disdainfully at the all-seeing one. Then, it greedily gazed at Su-Yun, opened its blood-red maw, and, under the horrified and enraged gazes of all who saw it, snapped at him with lightning speed. Time slowed down at that moment, and the gods were all thinking different things. The god of war frowned deeply. The Mother of Earth sensed something was wrong. If that serpent obtains the power of light and darkness, will it become a supreme god? Even if it doesn't succeed, its strength will definitely become much more troublesome. The Lord of the Sky, the spirits, the End, and other true gods sensed trouble. No matter who it was, at this moment, everyone felt that the god of light and darkness was doomed. After all, no one expected that the Ouroboros of Time, on the surface, was determined to obtain the power of space, but secretly it had taken a different turn and was preparing to seize the power of light and darkness. Under such circumstances, who could stop it under the watchful eyes of everyone? Su-Yun felt his thoughts had stopped. Fortunately, at the critical moment, the photon system's thinking had some cognitive abilities, allowing him to barely think about some things. Faced with the all-seeing one and the Ouroboros of Time, surrounded by enemies and with even time frozen in place, a certain death, Su-Yun felt a flicker of despair. Then, with his last vestige of consciousness, he initiated one final preparation, a preparation whose success he himself didn't know. The small black sphere hidden within his divine body suddenly stirred. A strange black vortex appeared, instantly enveloping the frozen Su-Yun. He discovered that his previously motionless divine body had regained its ability to move, and the time freeze had lost its effect. To the astonishment of the gods, Su-Yun was swallowed and disappeared by the black vortex, the Ouroboros of Time having bitten empty air. Space-time fluctuations, impossible. The Ouroboros of Time was utterly bewildered. Not only him, but all the other true gods were astonished. That small black sphere, carrying spatial temporal fluctuations, not only rendered the Ouroboros' time power ineffective, but also caused its intended target to vanish without a trace. What was that? How could it, carrying spatial temporal fluctuations, break free from the true god's time power? Amidst the shock, the true gods suddenly realized something. The ascension hadn't stopped, meaning, the next second, they spotted Su-Yun appearing in the distance. In a world where time seemed frozen, that movement was so conspicuous. Suddenly, all the true gods paled. The world was singing, rejoicing, and excited. It was cheering for the birth of a great being. Chapter 485 The True God of Light and Darkness. Su-Yun's consciousness sank into the vast ocean of rules, becoming part of the world. Because of this, his consciousness fell into a hazy state, devoid of awareness and feeling. All emotion vanished, leaving only rational thought, and even this rational thought was disappearing. To put it more vividly, it was a state of transformation. If he didn't awaken, although he would still be subject to the world's rules, he would no longer have independent consciousness. Su-Yun never expected that at the final moment of his ascension to true God, such a situation would arise, leaving him unprepared and directly falling into this predicament. Especially if it were just one rule, the danger wouldn't be so great. But now, with two unprecedented, and perhaps never to be repeated, rules advancing simultaneously, the difficulty was pushed to a dangerous level. Fortunately, at the crucial moment, the rational consciousness of the photon system acted, pulling him out of that state of transformation. Su-Yun suddenly awoke. In the blink of an eye, the entire transformation process, seemingly long, was only a moment. With his awakening, another strange change occurred. Su-Yun sensed countless timelines, each a possible future. These timelines were filled with various possibilities of his future. And now, these countless possibilities, good and bad, began to converge, merging into one possibility, a single possibility, the possibility of ascending to true godhood. Time began to converge and close its loop. The real figures of the past, present, and future vanished, becoming mere phantoms. Only the present him was the sole true anchor of time, the moment he existed, the moment he was real. Su-Yun suddenly frowned, feeling incomplete. Without much hesitation, he divinely understood where the missing part lay. The real world. Perhaps it was the lack of convergence in the real world's time that caused his incompleteness. Of course, even with this missing part, his ascension wouldn't affect his progress. With the ascension complete, the rules of light and darkness were him, he was the rules of light and darkness, and the light and darkness of the world became his body. Suyun wondered what his prayer was, and whether that prayer could control the world's movements, its cheers, its celebration of the birth of another great being. Light and darkness intertwined, filling the entire world. Strange phenomena occurred frequently. He has successfully ascended, Mother Earth exclaimed in disbelief. The god of war's eyes gleamed with eager anticipation. How long has it been? How long has it been since a true god appeared? The Lord of the Sky murmured. The all-seeing one was shocked and enraged, his heart filled with resentment. The Ouroboros of time was stunned, unable to accept this situation. A god had ascended to true godhood right before his eyes. If he hadn't witnessed it himself, he would have scoffed. And yet, it had truly happened. The spirit and the end's expressions shifted between anger and uncertainty. The fading resurrection and prophecy watched with complex emotions, their hearts filled with envy and resentment. If they too could. Besides them, the other gods on the continent who witnessed this scene were deeply shaken, feeling as if they had witnessed a miracle. What stunned them even more was the prayer that followed. The world sang praises, cheered, as if countless people were loudly praising him. The stars shine because of him. All things have light because of him. He is the master of billions of radiance, the unspeakable one who controls light. He is one and all-powerful and eternal, more honorable than him, more noble than him. Just when the gods thought it was over, what was even more shocking was the eerie murmur that followed. He was born in darkness, he is the supreme one of darkness, wherever darkness shrouds, his gaze is there, nothing can escape him, and no tongue dares to utter his name. Primordial darkness, immortal one, your will surpasses the will of the world, your words indeed surpass the rules of the world, you are eternity. Darkness sang, darkness murmured, praising this incredible being. Praise be to the primordial darkness, may your will encompass all things and stars. The eerie whispers that followed were even more chilling. O foolish beings who cannot see the truth, come. Join me in offering your spirit and flesh, to become one with the Lord, and to glimpse the eternal truth. Sacred and eerie praises and murmurs echoed and intertwined in the ears of the gods, overlapping yet not chaotic. All who heard them understood their meaning clearly. With the prayers, light and darkness began to converge in the world, forming the body of a great being. The Supreme Being had descended. An overwhelming sense of presence constantly reminded the world that this was a great being beyond comprehension and interpretation. Formless, without substance, without soul, without spirit, it was impossible to describe at a glance. It seemed like light, yet also like darkness. Light and darkness intertwined, vaguely revealing a chaotic expanse. Ineffable, indescribable, unseen. To think of it is terror, to contemplate it is to fall apart. It seemed to be the most noble and powerful being in the boundless multiverse, without equal. Sacred yet malevolent. It was an existence beyond the power of words to describe. Almost everyone who saw this being was completely blank-minded. The weaker ones went mad, sinking into slaughter and madness. They couldn't understand it, couldn't bear the gaze upon them. Suyun discovered that he didn't have a human form at this moment, appearing extremely indescribable amidst the interplay of light and darkness. In fact, this wasn't even his true form, but merely a part of the rules of his being. The moment he became a true god, he became the rules of light and darkness. The rules were him, and he was the rules. No wonder true gods are immortal. Even if this body were destroyed, he could be reborn. The true gods stared at him with varying expressions. A true god of light and darkness. To be honest, they were all somewhat wary at this moment. If it were just light or darkness, they were confident they wouldn't lose to the other. But now two top-tier authorities had merged, and the resulting power, just sensing the powerful aura emanating from the other, made their expressions grave. As expected, the opponent leaped to the level of a great god, and was even quite powerful among the great true gods. The all-seeing one's silver eyes glared at Suyun. Very good. You're really lucky, managing to advance like this. Suyun coldly glanced at him, then looked at the Ouroboros of time. It's time to settle accounts, a mysterious and complex voice echoed, its words indistinct without sufficient power. Such profound silence was truly remarkable. Before the all-seeing one could even react, the Ouroboros of time erupted in fury. So arrogant after just advancing, already annoyed by the loss of the light and dark authority, which was already within its grasp, the fact that its target had advanced right under its nose only fueled its rage. How could it tolerate this? Let me teach you a lesson. Chapter 486 The Power of the True God. At the moment of his ascension, Su-Yun finally realized the true power of a true God. He had been surprised before by the special abilities of true gods like the All-Seeing One, but now he understood. After his ascension, he discovered he could actually invoke the power of other rules, albeit only rudimentarily, yet it was already incredibly powerful. If he could use it more rudimentarily, he would practically be omnipotent. Of course, there were some rules he couldn't use, such as those of the true gods. At this moment, facing the disdain of the Ouroboros of time, Su-Yun remained indifferent. After uttering a reprimand, the three Ouroboros of time moved, about to charge forward together. The Earth Mother and the others, with a tacit understanding, didn't stop the Ouroboros. They also wanted to see the strength of the newly ascended true God. "Who do you think will win?" the End asked cryptically. The spirit glanced at him and rationally analyzed. The Ouroboros is at the pinnacle of true gods, its time rules are difficult to deal with. It won't lose, it's a secret that it became a true god in such a short time. The last sentence contained a profound meaning. As a fellow true god, the End of Heaven naturally understood his meaning and nodded in agreement. For true gods, while authority can still measure power, it's not the sole standard. Another criterion is the length of one's lifespan. Every moment, a true god can draw upon the essence of the world from the world imbued by their own rules, something that strengthens authority and has countless other uses. Even a weak authority, after a long period of nurturing with a vast amount of world essence, can become incredibly powerful, facing no bottlenecks before supreme divine power. Of course, this requires countless amounts of essence, and the strength of authority saves a considerable amount of time. This is why the Spirit and the End of Heaven spoke of this. The Ouroboros is not only powerful and has lived for countless ages, but its own rules may have even invaded more than one world. It has long since acquired a vast amount of world origins to enhance its time authority, reaching the limit of its great divine power. Under these circumstances, the Hidden One, who has just ascended and has not yet adapted to the power of a true god, although its authority is also powerful, is absolutely no match for the powerful and formidable Ouroboros. The Ouroboros' strength is evident from its ability to fight three true gods single-handedly without being at a disadvantage. Now, in the future, present, and past, its three true forms are attacking the Hidden One together. Under these circumstances, no one believes the Hidden One will win. The other true gods largely agree with their viewpoint, believing the Ouroboros will not lose. The only difference is how long the Hidden One can hold out. Boom! The Ouroboros of time launched an attack, killing the space god inverted without the intervention of any true god, and after escaping the harassment from the core of myriad demons, it stuck out its tongue at Su-Yun. Mysterious and complex words resounded. "Stop!" The words fell, and everything froze. Except for the true god, everything else remained still. Su-Yun felt a powerful force of time rules surge forth, even his own indescribably vast body of light and darkness was frozen. Of course, before, he might have had no other solution besides the little black ball escaping, but now it was different. At this moment, he truly felt the power of the true god. He was surprised to find that even the time weasel's power of time only froze his body. His mind was completely unaffected. Even his body of rule seemed capable of easily breaking free at any time if he so desired. Thinking this, he moved. Boom! A massive burst of light and darkness divine power flashed and erupted, directly shattering the power of time, and time around him returned to normal. In just that 1 second of frozen time, the Ouroboros had already rushed forward, its enormous mouth snapping down. Boom! The hazy body of light and darkness was bitten, a pain-like sensation washing over him, causing Su-Yun to frown slightly. The Ouroboros of time tore a piece of rule from his body. The moment it detached, the rule scattered into darkness and light. Even though this bite was only a small part of his massive body, it was enough to inflict some damage on his body of rules. Time resumed its flow. The Ouroboros of time moved, and after moving some distance, a half-smile appeared on his face. He sneered, "See? This is the difference between us, a mere newly promoted great god. You should learn humility. Today I'll teach you how to be humble." The Ouroboros of time was arrogant, with a contemptuous expression. The true gods and other ordinary deities who were watching from afar, battling the core of 10,000 demons, showed slight disappointment and expressions of knowing agreement. "This is the difference in foundation." The Earth Mother shook her head. The Ouroboros of time was simply too powerful, reaching the limit in both strength and authority. It was normal for the god of light and darkness to lose. This result was not unexpected. The spirits and the end showed no surprise, appearing as if they had expected this. The warrior's expression was slightly disappointed. The Lord of the Sky sighed, feeling sorry for the true god of light and darkness. He had just ascended to true god and was already so unlucky, of all people to offend, he had to provoke the Ouroboros of time. Now, after this defeat, he would surely lose all face. Even in the eyes of all living beings, his status would plummet to the lowest level. However, it couldn't be blamed on him, that serpent was simply too strong. Even if he and the true god of light and darkness switched places, the outcome wouldn't be much different. At most, he would last a little longer and lose more gracefully. Resurrection and prophecy, with only a small portion of their bodies remaining, showed disappointment. As fellow members of the banquet, they all hoped that the hidden one would win, but the result? The all-seeing one's indescribable silver eyes were filled with schadenfreude. "Let's see how long you can be arrogant," he sneered. Facing the various pitying gazes, some subtle and some direct, Suyun's eyes grew even colder as he rapidly familiarized himself with the power. Seeing that the newly ascended god remained silent and seemed to disregard him, the Ouroboros was instantly enraged. Fine, the Ouroboros laughed angrily, "it seems you haven't learned your lesson. Then I'll let you be reborn, to teach you a lesson." This time he was truly angry and decided to unleash his full power. To let this newly ascended god be reborn, to teach him a lesson. What? The true gods and ordinary gods were shocked. What was the Ouroboros saying? This wasn't even his true power. How could it be? It was unbelievable. The gods couldn't believe it. "I've been too lazy and decadent lately. I'll stay up all night to update one chapter, and then resume normal updates. Thank you for the donations, the next chapter will be released. I'm ashamed." If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. The Ouroboros of Time was already powerful enough, but that wasn't even its full strength. "He's holding back," the Earth Mother murmured in astonishment. Just after the Ouroboros of Time spoke, the gods suddenly froze. The three bodies of the Ouroboros blurred for a moment, then vanished from the spot. It was as if they had disappeared into thin air, leaving no trace. Of course, this was the perspective of ordinary gods. In the mind of true gods, which transcended time and space, an unbelievable scene was perceived. The Ouroboros of Time increased in speed, to an absurd degree. They were currently circling the true god of light and darkness, seemingly considering where to begin their attack. The next moment, they moved. Three gaping maws opened, biting at the true god of light and darkness's body of rules. 3 pieces of flesh and blood of light and darkness were bitten off, and intense fluctuations of rules continuously emanated from them. Satisfied with their victory, and with a playful attitude, the Ouroboros of Time returned to normal speed, recovering from that bizarre state. The ordinary gods stared in shock and disbelief at the body of rules in the Ouroboros's mouth. 3 gaps had appeared on the indescribable body of the god of light and darkness. It was as if the Ouroboros of Time had created this effect in the blink of an eye. They were completely bewildered, their expressions filled with shock. Only the true gods understood the real reason, but their shock only intensified. The power of time. The Ouroboros of Time had actually applied the power of time to itself, causing its speed to become infinitely fast. Under the power of time, speed seemed to lose its meaning. Even the true gods, although they sensed the Ouroboros of Time, could not keep up with its speed. They were shaken to their core. A terrifying authority over time. The Ouroboros of Time actually possesses such power. Why has it never used it before? "It's toying with us," the Earth Mother murmured, somewhat stunned. This wasn't just a wild guess. At this speed, the Ouroboros could have easily devoured the god of space before the true god could even react, yet it didn't. What other possibility was there besides toying with him? At this speed, who could possibly resist the Ouroboros? The fact was pretty much as they expected. The Ouroboros simply felt that its long life couldn't be without some fun, so it played a heart-pounding game with them, experiencing the thrill. Of course, there was also the fact that after reaching the limit of its great divine power, the Ouroboros sensed an inexplicable danger in advancing to supreme divine power, which is why it hesitated and didn't directly devour the space authority. However, the loss of the light and dark authority, and the scene of Suyun's ascension to true God, were truly things it had overplayed its hand. It hadn't anticipated the appearance of that strange black vortex, causing it to lose face and thus becoming angry. This speed, a hint of fear flickered in the all-seeing one's eyes. Faced with a terrifying Ouroboros, this limitless speed would even instill fear in a true god. Instantly, the Ouroboros of time reached its highest level of danger in their eyes, filled with dread, and placed on the list of those they couldn't afford to offend. Secret is doomed to lose, the spirit declared. The end nodded silently. How could they possibly fight against that infinite speed under these circumstances? Who could resist the all-seeing one? After the initial fear subsided, the Ouroboros chuckled mockingly. What bad luck. It seems a certain true god is about to be reborn. His words were full of schadenfreude, and his voice echoed throughout the heavens and earth. His words were naturally heard by the Ouroboros. A ferocious smile appeared on his face as he looked down at Su-Yun with disdain. I think you've learned humility. To make a more lasting impression on you, you should die once. His tone was very casual, as if you were talking about what he was eating today. Fear. Be terrified. With that, he prepared to end this farce. This god of light and darkness should also fall once to learn his lesson. Su-Yun suddenly felt a strong sense of crisis wash over him, as if he would encounter misfortune at any moment. Even at this moment, his mind remained incredibly calm, even using the photon system to think. Photon system, speed. Su-Yun paused slightly, suddenly realizing something. Before his advancement, he had considered the speed of light and exceeding it, but his strength hadn't reached that level, so it remained merely a concept. Now, facing the time Ouroboros ready to attack, he didn't have time to think too much, acting on his instincts and trying out his previous ideas. The moment the time Ouroboros attacked, Su-Yun suddenly felt everything was different. Everything around him froze, as if time had stopped. No, some things still maintained normal speed. 3 time Ouroboros were ferociously biting at him at normal speed. Su-Yun's light and dark body's gaze involuntarily shifted to the time Ouroboros. An illusion, the charging time Ouroboros was startled. After using the power of time to push his speed to the limit, in this completely still situation, he actually felt a gaze, and that gaze fell upon him. Even the source of this gaze was the least likely target. This must be an illusion, he was certain, having already made up his mind. After thinking it through, he cruelly looked at Su-Yun, at his ignorant and unfeeling fellow. Die, he viciously bit down. The distance closed infinitely. However, just when he thought he was about to succeed, the hazy, light and dark body, which was almost within reach, actually retreated slightly, moving away from the position where the 3 mouths were biting. The Ouroboros of time was stunned, its eyes showing shock. Impossible. 3 pairs of eyes stared intently at it, filled with disbelief. It couldn't believe what was happening, that someone could escape its attack at infinite speed. This was impossible. However, just as it was disbelieving, in the frozen background around it, with its wooden expression, Su-Yun casually moved its body of rules, moving at a normal speed in its eyes. The Ouroboros of time's eyes widened, staring blankly at everything before it, the entire snake dumbfounded. He actually saw the god of light and darkness moving at the same speed in his eyes, even at infinite speed. Instinctively, he looked around and found everything frozen and still. The time acceleration hadn't disappeared. This wasn't an illusion. This is impossible. How could this happen? The Ouroboros of time looked utterly incredulous. After adjusting to the speed, he coldly stared at the Ouroboros. Su-Yun said calmly, I think we can have some fun now. Chapter 488 To battle it faster than light. The Ouroboros of time was filled with shock and anger, unable to believe what it was hearing and seeing. Before it could think further, Su-Yun had already made his move. A pale green aurora, traveling at faster than light speed, enveloped the 3 Ouroboros. The Ouroboros were startled, although they didn't know what it was, they still used their colorless time magic to block it. To their surprise, the green aurora actually pierced through their time magic, directly enveloping them. The next moment, a feeling of weakness washed over them. What is this? In its shock and anger, a golden beam of light flashed before its eyes, hurtling towards its body at incredible speed. Just as it was about to move, it realized that its speed had decreased after passing the green light, and its massive body couldn't dodge in time. Instinctively, spatial fluctuations appeared, and it instantly vanished from its spot, thus avoiding the dangerous attack. Su-Yun didn't care, missing once didn't matter. He had countless chances, eventually, he would succeed. Thinking this, countless golden rays of light shone in the sky, attacking the 3 Ouroboros simultaneously. Golden light flashed. The Ouroboros were shocked and enraged. Boom. 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 A fierce battle erupted between the two sides. At infinite speed, they attacked each other countless times. Space was constantly being shattered and cracked. During their battle, they had already believed Su-Yun had no chance of winning, especially after the Ouroboros displayed terrifying speed. The gods felt even more pity for him, thinking he was doomed. Perhaps the moment the Ouroboros moved, the newly ascended true god would be defeated. That's what they thought. They even imagined that in an instant, the newly ascended true god would be defeated, torn to pieces by the infinitely faster Ouroboros. They estimated that at that time, the newly ascended true god would shamefully fade into obscurity. However, the result was beyond their expectations. After the Ouroboros launched their attack and disappeared, the newly ascended true god also vanished without a trace. This bizarre scene left the ordinary gods bewildered, not knowing what had happened. Only true gods could perceive the true situation under such circumstances. The result was beyond their expectations, leaving them in disbelief. It wasn't just the Ouroboros operating at infinite speed. The newly ascended true god also possessed a similar speed. How is this possible? The true gods couldn't accept this scene, their minds reeling. They could barely accept the Ouroboros' speed, but what gave the newly ascended light and dark true god such power? The Earth Mother, who had previously said Su-Yun's foundation was insufficient, felt her heart sink. With such bizarre speed, what need was there for any foundation? Besides the Ouroboros of time, who could fight him? He was already naturally invincible. The god of war was astonished. The spirit who had declared Su-Yun's defeat was now in a state of flux, his mood extremely unpleasant. The end was in a similar situation. As for the all-seeing one, who had been sneering inwardly, he was completely dumbfounded, unable to believe it while his heart was filled with jealousy. Damn it, how could a newly promoted true god be so strong? Could it be a hidden authority? Only this reason could explain his strength. I actually underestimated those two authorities, he couldn't believe it. But the scene displayed in his perception told him with unmistakable realism that his guess was likely correct. In an instant, his heart was overwhelmed by regret and jealousy. How could a newly promoted true god possess such powerful authorities? The authority of light and darkness should have been his. If he had paid more attention back then, he would be the one wielding those two authorities now, and he would have leaped to the limit of great divine power. The all-seeing one was burning with jealousy, wishing he could go back in time and seize the authority of light and darkness. Mine, it should have been mine. At this moment, as Su-Yun and the Ouroboros collided countless times, the effects gradually became apparent. The spacetime that had withstood countless attacks shattered into fragments, spatial turbulence raged, and the world trembled. The prayers ceased in the void, replaced by a mournful cacophony of everything crumbling. Boom. 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 Terrifying attacks ravaged the world, vast swathes of space collapsing, a bizarre and surreal spectacle, with raging winds and temporal torrents sweeping across the land, a scene resembling the apocalypse. Even though the Lord of the Sky and the Mother of the Earth reinforced the heavens and earth, they could not withstand their countless attacks. The true gods gradually grew numb from their initial shock. Compared to this battle with its impenetrable speed, their previous battles were mere child's play. Only then did the ordinary gods realize what had happened amidst the terrifying apocalypse. That newly ascended true god was actually fighting the Ouroboros of time, and could even keep up with its terrifying speed. They gasped in astonishment. Their previous pity for that being was now replaced by sheer shock. How could it be so powerful? The more the all-seeing one watched the apocalyptic battle, the more resentful and regretful it felt. Just as it was getting angry, something astonishing happened. In its transdimensional perception, the Hidden One, which had been engaged in countless battles, suddenly abandoned the Ouroboros and charged straight at it. What did it want to do? In its astonishment, its ineffable body was suddenly sliced off by a third of golden light. In a short time, it suffered a severe injury. At the same time, a voice rang in its mind. Did you want my body? Come and get it. Why don't you come and get it? The cold word seemed to mock its uselessness. The all-seeing one was shocked and furious. Feeling the stinging pain in its rule-bound body, the all-seeing one no longer had the good impression it had at the beginning. Its anger was tinged with fear. Today, indeed, a true god is about to be reborn. Your guess was quite accurate, Su-Yun directly relayed the all-seeing one's original words. Enraged, the all-seeing one wanted to tear the Hidden One apart, but at such incredible speed, he couldn't even react. The true gods watching from afar, upon seeing the all-seeing one severely injured, were shocked but forced to take this newly ascended true god seriously. Although he had just advanced, his strength was considerable. Even if he wasn't quite as powerful as the Ouroboros, he wasn't far behind. Putting aside everything else, who could react to such speed? Even with their complex emotions and resentment, they had to place him among those they couldn't easily provoke. At this moment, the Ouroboros of time, its face grim, said, "You dare to be distracted while fighting me?" Seeing Su Yun about to finish off the all-seeing one, it attacked without hesitation, its star-sized body striking out swiftly. Chapter 489 The God-Slaying Spear. Just as Su Yun was about to continue, his movements faltered, and he dodged the Ouroboros attack. After successfully blocking the attack, the Ouroboros didn't pursue, but instead stood directly in front of the all-seeing one. He sneered, "If you want to attack this guy, you'd better defeat me first." This newly ascended true god was far too arrogant, showing no regard for him at all. He even dared to be distracted during the battle, thinking he could defeat him. Since he wanted to kill the all-seeing one, the Ouroboros would stop him, to see what he could do. With his obstruction, he didn't believe this newly ascended true god could eliminate the all-seeing one right under his nose. The all-seeing one, hiding behind him, sensed this and a look of relief appeared in his silver eyes. He was grateful to the Ouroboros while looking at Su Yun with mockery. So what if he was stronger? There were still stronger ones above him. Su Yun's gaze towards them grew even colder. At the same time, he was also thinking rapidly. The Ouroboros' time authority is too difficult to deal with. In countless previous attacks, he found that although he wouldn't lose, he couldn't gain the upper hand either, because the opponent's time authority was simply too troublesome. Even when injured, he could use the time authority to reverse time and recover. Unless he was killed in one go, there was no way to win. Of course, while he was wary of the opponent, little did he know that the Ouroboros, which stood in front of the all-seeing one, was also cursing him inwardly. This newly ascended true god not only caught up in speed, but also had a large number of strange moves, including healing abilities. If it weren't for the ability to reverse time and recover from injuries, he felt that he would have been defeated if he wasn't careful. The two sides had different thoughts. Under these circumstances, if there were no other unexpected events, it would definitely be impossible for them to fight to conclusion. The power of a true god is already inexhaustible, which made it even more impossible. Su Yun naturally knew this as well, so he was thinking of a solution. As he thought, he suddenly thought of something. The God-Slaying Spear. Perhaps it could. This was just a flash of inspiration, and he wasn't sure if he could do it. Without much thought, he immediately unleashed a powerful burst of black and white light. Using the power fluctuations as cover, he activated the small black sphere and, based on the coordinates previously marked on the sphere, retrieved the God-Slaying Spear from the real world. After ascending to True God, upon sensing the Holy Spear again, Su Yun discovered that the artifact's aura was extremely weak, utterly insignificant. Faced with this situation, he knew without a doubt that the Holy Spear couldn't harm the Ouroboros. Frowning, Su Yun couldn't help but think of the Sea God's artifact. Both were divine artifacts, yet the difference was so vast. Puzzled, and with a tentative thought, Su Yun poured the power of light and darkness into the artifact. The moment the two forces of power touched the artifact, the light rule was eagerly accepted, while the darkness rule was repelled, but due to insufficient power, it couldn't be completely rejected. The God-Slaying Spear trembled violently, seemingly on the verge of collapse. Su Yun frowned and withdrew the power of the darkness rule. As the power dissipated, the God-Slaying Spear returned to normal, its aura growing even stronger with the infusion of the power of the light rules. While Su Yun was modifying the artifact, the Ouroboros of time was puzzled, wondering why this guy had suddenly burst into light and then made no further moves, wondering what he was doing. Since it didn't know the reason, it didn't bother to think about it further and prepared to continue the battle. Su Yun frowned, adopting a defensive stance to buy time. Boom, boom, boom. A scene resembling the end of the world reappeared, terrifying everyone. The all-seeing one's eyes flashed with relief, and a thought of retreat arose in its heart. Let these two fight here, I'll leave first, it sneered. However, just as it was preparing to retreat, something unexpected appeared in its perception. A golden spear, gleaming with intense golden light, suddenly appeared and then pierced towards the Ouroboros of Time's future body at faster than light speed. The Ouroboros didn't initially intend to pay attention to this attack, but a sense of crisis suddenly struck, and before it could react, the golden spear had pierced its serpentine body. Thud! The expected repulsion didn't occur. The golden spear pierced through all defenses, creating a hole in its future form. Colorless time manipulation rules dissipated in large quantities. The pain stimulated the Ouroboros of time, causing its eyes to widen. How could this be? What kind of divine artifact was this? Instinctively, it wanted to reverse time, to return to its state before the injury. However, under the time reversal, it felt that all other parts of its body returned to their previous state, only the wound remained unchanged. The Ouroboros of time scanned the wound in disbelief, then stared intently at the god-slaying spear. What on earth is this thing? It felt a strange power that extremely restrained gods appear on the wound, causing the time reversal to lose its intended effect. How could such a divine artifact, so restrained by gods, exist? It was utterly incredulous. It probably couldn't have imagined, even if it racked its brains, that this was a divine artifact born after the slaying of a god. In this other world where gods were revered, how could such a situation arise where, after slaying a god, so many beings still recognized and believed that this weapon could slay a god? Therefore, this divine weapon, which was incredibly effective against gods, had left him stunned for so long. Looking at the golden spear that pierced the Ouroboros of time, Su Yun was also somewhat surprised. He hadn't expected the effect to be so good. Judging from the actual effect, the enhanced god-slaying spear not only improved its ability to prevent wound healing, but its ability to pierce everything and counter gods was also terrifyingly enhanced. The fact that it could harm a true god showed just how powerful this divine weapon was. Soon, the battle turned around. Under the strange power of the god-slaying spear, the Ouroboros of time's time reversal was directly rendered ineffective, and Su Yun was able to quickly recover from his injuries. With this shift in power, the Ouroboros of time was directly at a disadvantage. The true gods couldn't believe that the Ouroboros, who was about to defeat the Ouroboros of time, the pinnacle of great divine power, was about to lose. This was impossible. They were too shocked to accept it. A newly ascended true god, whose strength hadn't even reached the limit of a great god, was about to defeat the Ouroboros all-seeing being, who possessed the power of time. A look of fear flashed in his silver eyes, and without a word, he prepared to retreat. He absolutely couldn't stay. Once the Ouroboros was defeated, his fate would certainly be grim. However, just as Su Yun was fighting the Ouroboros and trying to quietly leave, a cold voice rang out. Today, no one can save you. Chapter 490. No one can save you. The All-Seeing One was startled, sensing the secret battle between the All-Seeing One and the Ouroboros, which had abandoned its opponent and rushed towards them. Especially the golden spear radiating a dangerous aura, aimed directly at it, further alarmed it. The golden spear streaked through the air, piercing towards it at faster than light speed. At faster than light speed, the All-Seeing One was not the Ouroboros. Even if its mind could react, its body couldn't move. The golden light flashed past thud. It struck the All-Seeing One's right eye directly, piercing a hole. The All-Seeing One was shocked and enraged. The Ouroboros was furious that the god of light and darkness had attacked the All-Seeing One, abandoning it, but suddenly hesitated about whether to intervene. In that brief moment of hesitation, the All-Seeing One's other eye was pierced. Stop. You can't kill me, the All-Seeing One, using its extraterrestrial thinking, said to Su Yun, as a fellow true god, you wouldn't want another enemy in the future, would you? Its words contained a hidden threat, directly stating its interests. It felt that as fellow true gods, past grievances were minor, and that the Hidden One would make a wise choice. However, to its surprise, the Hidden One not only didn't stop, but intensified its attack. In just a moment, its two indescribable silver eyes were shattered into scattered rules by countless attacks. The All-Seeing One was filled with resentment and unwillingness. Boom. Terrifying rules scattered. Having dealt with the All-Seeing One, Su Yun returned to the Ouroboros. Boom boom boom. They resumed their battle. The observing true gods temporarily ignored the battlefield, staring blankly at the spot where the Omnisite had vanished. How long had it been since the Omnisite had been killed? How long had it been since a true god hadn't shattered a body of rules? They watched in shock, their hearts filled with fear at the immense power of this true god who had ascended to the rank of true god. To be able to so easily defeat a true god was truly terrifying. Boom. Another spear pierced a gash through the body of the Ouroboros, leaving it riddled with wounds, its scales torn open, revealing countless holes. The Ouroboros was filled with resentment, beaten so badly by a newly ascended true god weaker than itself, and in the eyes of all the gods no less, fueling its rage. Damn it. "You damned bastard," it roared, wishing it could tear Su-Yun to pieces, but the eerie golden spear rendered it helpless, leaving it filled with frustration. Boom! Su-Yun conjured a giant hand of light and darkness, gripping the god-slaying spear, and fiercely thrust it towards the Ouroboros' future body's head. The Ouroboros of time was startled and quickly dodged. "If you're so capable, don't dodge," Su-Yun mocked. Hearing this, the Ouroboros of time became even more enraged. Su-Yun casually retorted, "Didn't you want to teach me a lesson earlier? You've learned your lesson." It was like a knife piercing the Ouroboros of time's heart, making it want to devour Su-Yun alive. In its fury, its three serpentine bodies charged forward together. Boom! 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 Space shattered, spatial turbulence surged. Despite its resentment, the Ouroboros of time was ultimately overwhelmed by the power of the god-slaying spear, and all three serpentine bodies were severely injured. Finally, to the astonishment of the true gods, the Ouroboros of time actually began to flee. The gods were dumbfounded, unable to believe what they were seeing. Even Su-Yun was somewhat taken aback. Suddenly he paused. He discovered a fluctuation in time in a certain place. Looking closer, his heart skipped a beat. It was the place where Inverted had fallen. In an instant, he understood what the Ouroboros wanted to do. He wanted to resurrect Inverted and then seize the special authority. The Earth Mother and the others had also thought of this, wanting to stop him but powerless to do so. In this situation, only the true god of light and darkness could stop the Ouroboros. Su-Yun did want to stop him, but the Ouroboros seemed to have anticipated this, directly sending his past and future bodies to block him. Now, even if Su-Yun wanted to stop him immediately, he couldn't. Soon, under the power of time, the special rules flowed backward and converged, and Inverted was resurrected with a bewildered expression. He had just woken up and hadn't understood what was happening when he was shocked by the gaping maw that appeared before him. Everything went black, and his entire body was swallowed by the Ouroboros of time. Su-Yun saw the scene from afar and felt a little uneasy. Inverted had actually been obtained by the Ouroboros of time, and without a doubt, the other party would definitely gain the special authority, space plus time, thus creating the space-time authority. At the same time, a loud laugh echoed in Su-Yun's mind. Haha. Just you wait. Once I've merged with and comprehended the special authority, then you. Hearing the Ouroboros' smug laughter, Su-Yun's eyes turned cold as he stared at the two past and future bodies blocking his way. Boom. The Ouroboros, having achieved its goal and about to recall its other bodies, looked at the returning future body and sensed the vanished past body. Its smile vanished, and its mood turned incredibly gloomy. You wait. Glaring fiercely at Su-Yun, the Ouroboros, filled with rage, began its retreat with resentment. In the blink of an eye, it flew out of the world and disappeared into the astral plane. What should have been a perfect retreat had ended up so pathetically. In the astral plane filled with multicolored starlight, the Ouroboros of time vowed that once it merged with the authority, it would make that guy pay. Its figure quickly disappeared into the depths of the astral plane. Watching the fleeing Ouroboros, Su-Yun felt a surge of urgency. Although the god-slaying spear currently provides an advantage, things might change if the Ouroboros gains special authority. Perhaps its strength will increase significantly. Thinking of this, the relaxed mood that should have followed its ascension to true god tightened. While it pondered this, the true gods in the distance watched the Ouroboros flee without a trace, their feelings incredibly complex. A newly ascended true god possessed such power, they felt a pang of bitterness, wondering if they were too inferior compared to this newcomer. The gods seriously doubted their own divine existence. Su-Yun glanced at the myriad demon core in the distance. What had this guy been planning to do to him? In the blink of an eye, it moved over, controlling the god-slaying spear, and attacked a black tumor filled with blood-red eyes and countless tentacles. PFFT, a hole was immediately pierced through the myriad demon core's extraordinary body. The myriad demon core was filled with shock and anger mixed with a trace of fear. Even with its limited understanding, it knew this guy was not to be trifled with. He was also filled with resentment. The person he could easily crush before had now become someone who could harm him. Chapter 491 The Real World. Feeling the wounds appearing on its body, the core of myriad demons, while filled with resentment, deeply remembered this guy. I'll remember you. Fueled by rage, its body was completely shattered. Boom. The divine body exploded, and strange rules scattered everywhere. If Su-Yun hadn't reacted quickly and dispelled it, the entire world might have been corrupted by these scattered rules, and then there wouldn't just be a few monsters in the world. After destroying the core of myriad demons, Su-yoon glanced at the Mother Earth and considered whether to kill her. After all, this guy's subordinates had attacked him before. The Mother Earth felt a chill in her heart, a sense of foreboding. What does it want to do? Just as she was wondering, that dangerous feeling disappeared, like an illusion. Su-yoon thought that this guy wouldn't die even if he destroyed him, so he didn't bother to take action. If killing her would lead to death, he would definitely send his Mother Earth to heaven. Su-yoon recovered from the faster-than-light speed, and everything around him began to flow again. After glancing at the true god, he looked at the world. After this battle, most of the creatures on this continent perished, either killed by the aftershocks or driven mad by mental pollution. Under these circumstances, the previously established development was wiped out overnight. Su-yoon suddenly understood, no wonder the sea god's ruins, which seemed to have a well-developed civilization, had now become a primitive society. Amidst the catastrophe of the true god's battle, only a few survived. Fortunately, the Yanhoang tribe had taken care of them, using the Ark of the Covenant to resist the pollution of the myriad demon core, and even avoiding that direction in subsequent battles, so there were few casualties. However, the shock was undeniable. Besides ordinary creatures, most of the gods survived. How should I address you? Suddenly a voice rang out. Su-yoon looked up and saw that the voice came from an invisible, colorless, yet vaguely outlined being. The Lord of the Sky. The moment the words left his lips, the attention of all the gods was drawn. Su-yoon pondered for a moment, glanced at all living beings and the true gods, and spoke calmly, "You may call me God." His mysterious and complex voice resonated throughout the entire world. In that instant, anyone who could clearly hear the voice of God was shaken, deeply remembering the title. After speaking, Su-yoon gave the gods one last look, then vanished at faster-than-light speed. Before the true gods could ask anything, they discovered that the being had disappeared into the astral plane. Their expressions were complex. Su-yoon's clone looked at the blurry, soon-to-disappear prophecy and resurrection. "I don't want to die, can you save me?" Resurrection pleaded desperately. Prophecy also looked over with urgent eyes. Su-yoon sighed and shook his head. Their true forms had long since dissipated into rules and disappeared. How could he possibly revive them unless he could use the rules of time? However, due to the Ouroboros of time, even Su-yoon, who had become a true god and could roughly utilize a large number of rules, could not use the rules of time now. If he could use it, he might try to revive them. But now, he was powerless. The warrior beside him pondered how to revive them, and could only think of the power of time. With a compassionate expression, he explained, "Time is," as he explained. Resurrection and prophecy became increasingly desperate, completely abandoning the idea of resurrection. With their hearts filled with despair and death, they began to rapidly dissipate. However, just as they were about to perish in despair, a voice rang out, giving them a glimmer of hope. Su-yoon, considering they were all members of the banquet, spoke before they vanished, "If I can do it in the future, I will revive you." Whether he could actually do it was uncertain. Enough. Resurrection and prophecy were overjoyed, recovering from their despair. Then, with hearts full of hope, they completely dissipated. The only difference was that this time they had expectation. It was the hope of life. The warriors beside them were stunned, thinking Su-yoon was just trying to comfort prophecy and resurrection before their deaths, and didn't take his words seriously. After all, even great gods like them couldn't accomplish such a thing, except for the Ouroboros. The difficulty involved, unless, of course, Hidden could ascend to supreme godhood. But was that even possible? No one knew better than them how difficult it was to ascend to supreme godhood. Moreover, Hidden had only recently ascended to true godhood, not even reaching the limit of great godhood, so how could he possibly do such a thing? Therefore, they simply took Hidden's words as comforting the two guys. The warrior suddenly said, without using that speed, "Let's fight." Su-yoon's lips twitched slightly. Compared to the spirits and the end, who were distant yet subtly fearful, this guy seemed completely unaffected, even daring to challenge them. Su-yoon couldn't help but think of the divine banquet. Now, some members were dead, others were enemies, and the remaining members were all true gods. He wondered what would happen in the future. After silently contemplating the idea of the true god banquet, Su-yoon noticed that the Earth Mother and the Sky Lord had each created an avatar, seemingly wanting to come over. Seeing this, he didn't bother staying any longer and quickly flew away into the distance. The Earth Mother and the other true gods were taken aback by his departure without a word, their expressions shifting as they watched his retreating figure, yet they dared not stop him. With the end of the True God War and the departure of the True Gods one by one, the world finally calmed down, allowing the remaining beings to recuperate. Suyun's main body was about to return to the divine stone space through the small black sphere when he found it too cramped and stopped entering. Since his main body couldn't descend to the tribe, lest the believers suffer mental problems, he used the small black sphere to teleport his clone there, and then retrieved the divine stone. After obtaining the divine stone, he immediately began its modification. Following the same procedure, he channeled the power of the light rules into it. In an instant, the divine stone underwent a transformation. Boom! The space inside began to expand rapidly. A dozen minutes later, the space had expanded to the size of half the solar system. Feeling it was enough, although not yet at its limit, Suyun stopped the modification. Meanwhile, the vast space within the divine stone underwent some strange changes. It almost completely detached itself from the divine stone and existed in an unknown space-time. Furthermore, it gained the ability to guide the souls of believers. From now on, the souls of any deceased believer would be guided to this space. In light of this, Suyun attempted to use special rules to create a special layer in the upper part of the divine stone space. Perhaps because the divine stone space inherently belonged to him, nothing unexpected happened. The space above was separated, as if an extra layer of sky had been added. After completing all this, his massive body of rules squeezed into the upper space. After a while, it's time to go back to the modern world. When he ascended to True God, he felt that he was incomplete, lacking a part. At that time, he knew that the missing part was in the real world. Now that he had the time, he decided to go back. He was also very curious about what the missing part was. Thank you for the 1,500 coin reward. Thank you for the 1,500 coin reward. Thank you to Black Cat in the Rain for the 500 coin reward. And thank you to 2020112203252167 feet for the 100 coin reward. Chapter 492 Descending into the Real World. Just as Suyun was about to activate the small black sphere to return, he suddenly paused, a question nagging at him. If I go via my clone, it might not be able to make up for the missing part, but if my main body goes, Suyun wondered if the impact of his main body going would be too great. Never mind, he thought, shaking his head after a moment, deciding not to dwell on it. However, he could leave his dark body behind to avoid any negative consequences. After the light and darkness separated, Suyun activated the small black sphere in the pure white divine stone space. A black vortex appeared, quickly engulfing his incomprehensibly enormous body. In the real world, billions of humans were going about their lives, eating, playing games, or working hard for a living. However, at this moment, an anomaly occurred, stunning everyone on Earth. Unexplained chants and prayers began to resound throughout the world. The voices rose from low to high, as if countless people were loudly praising and extolling a certain being. O all-knowing and all-powerful creator of the world, master of infinite creation, you are one, and you are all, you are to come, the self-existent one, Almighty God, your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven, for the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours, forever and ever. The world cheered, sang, and praised. It welcomed a great being who was all-knowing and all-powerful. The whispers of praise resounded in the ears of countless people, waking them from their sleep or other activities. The praise surrounded them, making it clear to them. What is this? What happened? People all over the world were initially filled with instinctive fear, but then some quickly realized from the words of praise. It's the Lord, Father, God. Countless exclamations rang out, fully expressing people's shock. At the same time, with the appearance of praise, people boldly speculated. Could it be that God is about to descend? Just as people were in shock, a strange phenomenon appeared in the world. Streaks of light emerged from the void, filling every corner of the world. Bathed in this light, countless people experienced the illusion that the Lord was with them. St. Peter's Basilica. The clergy, already terrified by the loss of the Holy Lands, were now filled with both joy and fear upon discovering the Lord's arrival, lest he blame them for their negligence. Pope Joseph, accompanied by a large entourage, prayed with trepidation, hoping for divine forgiveness. At that moment, those bathed in the white light experienced a complete mental blank. An ineffable, indescribable, and unseen presence descended. It was as if light itself, formless, intangible, spiritless, soulless, utterly incomprehensible, an existence beyond the power of words to describe. This ineffable light enveloped the entire solar system, even reaching the Oort cloud and Kuiper belt at its edge, and beyond. The light spread to an unknown destination. Upon arrival, Su-Yun found himself expanding. He covered the entire solar system and even the outside world at an incredible speed. After a moment of surprise, he quickly understood. Having lost the suppression of the other world, upon arriving in the real world, he naturally returned to his original size. As for his size, it was the same as the size of the other world. Due to the unfathomable size of the star system, even Su-Yun was unaware that he had become so enormous. Calculated by the entire solar system he enveloped, he was now equivalent to dozens of solar systems. Although this wasn't much in the entire universe, it was incredibly exaggerated in the eyes of Su-Yun and Earthlings. Keep in mind that this was only his physical size. If you were to unleash his power, without the suppression of the other world's rules, Su-Yun himself couldn't imagine the extent of the damage he could cause. What's going on? Suddenly, he froze. He discovered that his own rule-based body was eroding the universe. The light rules existing in the universe were being invaded and merged by his rules. During this process, countless profound pieces of information entered his mind. His light rules were replenished, becoming even stronger. The level of his great divine power even increased slightly. This scene reminded Su-Yun of a fitting description. It's not that the true God is adapting to the world, but rather that the world is adapting to the true God. In internet parlance, it's like saying, it's not my fault, it's the world's fault, and the world should adapt to me. Su-Yun thought of many things. For example, if he were to descend into a world without the rules of light or divine power, he would definitely not experience any culture shock. Without the rules of light, simply adding them would suffice. Even without doing anything, the world would actively adapt to him. As for not adapting to divine power, that was fine too. Even unintentional emanations of his power would constantly reshape the world. Even if a second ago the world was rejecting divine power, it would immediately adapt after his power passed through. That's how abnormal and domineering it was. No wonder he's called the true God. Su-Yun realized that the term true God wasn't just for show, and he gained a new understanding of it. To be a god everywhere, that's what makes a true god. Besides, Su-Yun was astonished to discover that as the rules invaded the universe, his own rule-based body was growing larger and larger. Su-Yun was shocked by his own realization. This meant that, as the universe was invaded, his size was increasing one by one, until he would be equivalent to the size of a universe. It was terrifying. Su-Yun was a little scared. Even without using his power, who could withstand the pressure of a universe? At the same time, he also discovered that the matter in the area where his body was beginning to mutate. He quickly stopped it. Otherwise, who knows what Earth would become in a short time. A light sphere or a divine artifact Earth. In addition to these, Su-Yun had also shielded a large part of his own body and some incomprehensible aspects beforehand. Looking at the stunned expressions of countless people, he was speechless. If he hadn't shielded them, they probably wouldn't just be stunned, but would be going insane or on their way to becoming vegetable-like. Or even worse, their heads would explode like fireworks. Anyway, Su-Yun was glad that he had foresight, otherwise saving people would have taken a lot of effort. Suddenly, Su-Yun, who was lurking in the dark universe, noticed something. Several solar systems away, a spaceship seemed to have flown past him not far away. Chapter 493 The Real Universe. Of course, while it's said to be not far away, from the perspective of space, the distance is still quite far. Just like a fly flying by is visible to a human, Su-Yun also noticed this fly. The aliens from last time, Su-Yun thought curiously, and couldn't help but cast his gaze into the black spaceship. Inside the spaceship, which was several hundred meters long and resembled a rectangular block, conversation could be heard. How long until we reach the Kingland star system? Soon. Then, a mechanical voice began to sound. Space jump initiated, space distorted, and in the blink of an eye, the spaceship disappeared from its original spot. Under Su-Yun's curious gaze, in a range of about tens of thousands of kilometers around his body, space distorted, and a black rectangular spaceship appeared. This method of travel, Su-Yun pondered. The way the spaceship moved was clearly a level above those of the dinosaurs and Orions. Su-Yun glanced at the dinosaur warship still docked near the moon outside Earth. The dinosaurs on it, after their initial shock, were stunned upon seeing his body. It has nothing to do with them, he guessed. As he had guessed, The spaceship was simply passing by. The design of the solar system is truly remarkable. Earth is protected not only by the Moon and Jupiter from extraterrestrial meteorites, but also by the Oort cloud and Kuiper belt, making it difficult for extraterrestrial civilizations to discover Earth as a habitable planet. The people on this spaceship, too, hadn't discovered Earth, otherwise, they would definitely have come over. At this moment, a puzzled male voice came from the spaceship. "What's going on? Why are we stopped here?" a mechanical voice cried out. Jump failed. Jump failed. Unknown influence. The people on the spaceship were bewildered, not understanding what had happened. Why couldn't they perform a space jump? Investigate the cause. Investigating. As an image appeared on the spaceship, the dozen or so brown-skinned, smooth-skinned aliens, somewhat resembling humans, were all stunned. Boundless light appeared before their eyes. What is that? It is, even though it was just a projection, the incomprehensible information shocked them, leaving their minds blank, unable to think of anything else. As if they had witnessed the truth, they couldn't comprehend it at all. Suyun hadn't concealed his physical form as completely. Therefore, as these people stared blankly, their expressions gradually became somewhat crazed. They were uncontrollably absorbed, and faced with what seemed like the embodiment of the Dao, not one of them was willing to wake up. Suyun was speechless and instinctively shielded himself from most of his influence. However, it was already a bit too late. These people's minds were already somewhat off. The most magnificent, God, I saw God, influenced by Suyun, these people's minds had become distorted. Their eyes were fanatical and crazed, staring at Suyun as if he were looking at their one and only God. Hopeless, Suyun shuddered. Seeing that these dozen or so aliens were about to control their spaceship to fly over, he quickly stopped them. With a thought, under a simplified application of his all-powerful energy, Suyun gave these people a signal to stay away, not to approach. Without any mishaps, no matter how mentally unstable they were, under the vast power, they could only steer their spaceship away from here. Suyun watched the spaceship begin to disappear into the distance, not caring at all. A mere dozen or so insignificant beings. He turned his attention back to himself. Of course, although he didn't care, the effects on those people wouldn't simply disappear. After returning to their home planet, a series of changes would occur. Suyun discovered that as the rules permeated the universe, he extracted wisps of mysterious, invisible, and colorless energy. This is, for some inexplicable reason, he immediately knew what it was. The origin of the universe. This thing, Suyun pondered. When he advanced to true God, he had also extracted some of this in the other world, but due to time constraints, he hadn't examined it closely. What's the use of this thing? Puzzled, he couldn't help but study it. Soon, he discovered that this thing actually had the effect of enhancing authority. Suyun could still roughly sense his own strength and knew the limits that existed in the darkness. According to his intuition, he was currently around the middle level, neither the weakest nor the strongest, still quite a distance from the limit. If it were a percentage, it would be around 50%. This wisp of cosmic origin, used to enhance authority, was something Suyun would hardly have sensed if he weren't so sensitive to authority. He was somewhat disappointed, and at the same time, astonished by the difficulty of enhancing a true God's strength. At the current pace, he roughly estimated that reaching the limit would take millions of years. Too slow. Under normal circumstances, it wouldn't be a problem, but with the threat of the Ouroboros, it was unacceptable. Heaven knows what level of power the Ouroboros would reach after its strength was enhanced. Would the little black ball become ineffective the next time they faced it? Would the real world discover these possibilities, giving him a sense of urgency to quickly enhance his strength and attempt to break through that limit? Just as he was worrying, he suddenly noticed something. As the range of the light rule's influence increased, the speed of acquiring cosmic origin was increasing. This, Suyun was somewhat surprised. He couldn't help but imagine it. Occupying only such a small area is insignificant compared to the universe's origin, but if the entire universe were occupied, then, advancement would definitely be possible. Suyun sensed the speed of the encroachment and found it somewhat slow, so he tried actively eroding it. In an instant, a strange scene appeared in the universe. An indescribable ball of light was expanding geometrically at a speed exceeding the speed of light. One moment it could only move the size of 50 solar systems, the next it could move a distance of 100 solar systems. This geometrical speed of encroachment truly astonished Suyun. Even in such a vast universe, At this rate of encroachment, it probably wouldn't take long. Su-Yun recalled the scale of the universe. The moon, pulled by the Earth, formed a small organizational structure. The Earth, bound by the sun's gravity, revolved around the sun, forming the solar system. The solar system, pulled by the galactic center, formed the Milky Way galaxy. The Milky Way and the Andromeda galaxy, their shared gravitational point, along with dozens of other galaxies, formed the local group, which is dominated by the Virgo cluster. Above that lies the local supercluster, containing hundreds of clusters like the Virgo cluster. Further up, there's the Laniakea supercluster, comprised of over 1 million galaxies. And all of this is just the beginning of the cosmic filamentary web. The Milky Way is merely a point within that web. Su-Yun suspected that even at this geometrically abnormal speed, it would take quite some time to encompass the entire universe. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 494 Fusion of Authority and Creation. Hopefully, I can increase my strength before the Ouroboros advances, Su-Yun sighed inwardly. He didn't know how long the serpent would take, but he wanted to increase his strength as quickly as possible. Otherwise, who knew what would happen after the serpent advanced? Especially after breaking through the limit, just how strong would he have to be? Su-Yun suddenly noticed a problem. The dark god body and the light power can be fused together, but in reality, it is an independent entity. Even if I use my primal power to enhance the light authority to its limit, the dark authority is essentially not enhanced. The two are separate. He was somewhat taken aback. This meant that he had to gather 2 portions of the primal power needed to advance to the limit. Instantly, he felt a heavy responsibility. However, the benefits were also obvious. If he advanced together after both authorities reached their limits, the increase in power would definitely be significant. Thinking about advancing together, Su-Yun couldn't help but think about the issue of authority fusion. Due to the mutual repulsion between the 2 authorities, he had failed countless times in his previous experiments and concluded that external help was needed to fuse the 2 authorities. Thinking rapidly, Su-Yun couldn't help but think of the origin of the universe. That thing itself was incredibly profound, and it could even be used to enhance authority. Could it be used to fuse with authority? Thinking this, Su-Yun couldn't resist. Within his luminous body, a black vortex appeared in the small black sphere, and an ineffable body of dark rules surged forth from the opposite side. The moment it appeared, it seemed as if praise and celebration were about to resound throughout the universe, welcoming the appearance of a great being. Su-Yun quickly stopped it, and then the 2 rapidly merged. To avoid any interference, he didn't allow even a trace of dark power to leak out. All changes occurred deep within, while on the surface, he maintained a luminous appearance. Darkness and light were clearly distinct, showing no sign of merging. With a thought, he guided wisps of faint, invisible, and colorless profound energy towards the point where the 2 met. In the thin, almost invisible, hazy mist, this cosmic origin poured in, like water droplets falling into the ocean, producing no change whatsoever, creating an undisturbed feeling. Su-Yun frowned. No, that's not right. The origin of the universe has disappeared. Maybe there's not enough of it, Su-Yun suddenly guessed. Since the origin of the universe has disappeared, it means that some unknown changes must have occurred. It seems I need to accumulate some origin of the universe and continue testing, Su-Yun sighed helplessly. He already had an additional dark authority separating the origin of the universe, and now he had another authority of unknown depth to merge with. Could it be that the universe in the real world isn't enough for me? Suddenly, this absurd thought popped into his head. This wasn't just a wild guess. Under the origin of the universe, he could still detect some anomalies in the enhancement of authority with his sensitivity. But merging with authority, he couldn't detect anything. Needless to say, the difficulty was absolutely incomparable. Moreover, although the real universe was incredibly vast, the amount of origin he could obtain was negligible compared to the other world's area. If it weren't for the vastness of the universe, Su-Yun might already be considering new channels for obtaining origin. All these reasons made him a little uneasy. After a long pause, Su-Yun sighed inwardly. If that's not enough, then I'll have to find another way. Moreover, he had a concern. How did the origin of the universe come about? Is it inexhaustible? Or is there only so much available for a certain period? Would absorbing too much have negative consequences for the universe? After pondering these concerns, to relax, he turned his attention to Earth. He noticed that the prayer he had offered during his previous descent seemed to have changed. Is it because of living beings? Su-Yun pondered. During this time, with the revelation of his true form, accidents had occurred frequently around the world, resulting in the deaths of many. Faced with this situation, he moved his body away from Earth, then spent some time resurrecting the dead. Next, his gaze fell upon St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican. He noticed a group of people kneeling on the ground, praying in fear. After a brief observation, he understood the reason. They thought the Holy Lance was lost. A thought struck Su-Yun, and a golden spear, shimmering with golden light and radiating an inexplicable aura, appeared. Under his control, the golden spear streaked through the air with a golden light, descending from the sky at incredible speed and floating before Pope Joseph, who was at the head of the assembly. The Holy Lance, Pope Joseph, who was feeling guilty, immediately became excited. The Holy Lance is back. The group of white-robed clergy kneeling behind him were also filled with excitement. However, at that moment, people noticed that the Holy Lance seemed different. The golden spear, floating half a meter above the ground, suddenly exuded a sense of majesty, even a feeling of facing the heavens and earth, making it hard to breathe. Furthermore, it was constantly emitting golden light, and under its illumination, the marble slabs on the ground seemed to change, creating a feeling of constantly influencing the surrounding environment. Everyone, including Pope Joseph, stared in disbelief, unable to understand how the Holy Lance had become like this. Just looking at it filled them with awe. After throwing out the Holy Lance, Su-Yun didn't care anymore. What would happen next was left to the Pope and the others to handle. Thinking of divine artifacts, Su-Yun couldn't help but think of another one. Moreover, it was something he personally created and nurtured as a main artifact. The Book of Creation. After such a long period of gestation, I wonder how it's done. If it's strengthened by rules, could it truly become a creation artifact? Su-Yun couldn't help but imagine. If it could, that would be interesting, acting as a creator god. Speaking of which, there shouldn't be any creator gods in other worlds, Su-Yun pondered. Even among the numerous rules he could utilize, there wasn't a rule for creation. It's obvious that this world couldn't possibly have such a rule. It's completely beyond the norm. Perhaps, I can try to research it in the future. If he could become a creator god, then what would the Ouroboros of time be? He could easily crush it. Of course, this is just a guess. Whether he can succeed is another matter. The rule for creation doesn't even exist in this world, it's beyond this world. How could he grasp the power of creation? After thinking a lot, Su-Yun felt a bit overwhelmed. Only after becoming a true god did he realize that there were still so many things to improve. There were even threats from other true gods. There wasn't even time for peace. It was completely different from what he had imagined. Forget it, I'll stop thinking about it and try to fill in the missing parts. Chapter 495 The Missing Part. After contemplating those matters, Su-Yun shifted his attention to the parts of himself that were lacking. A feeling arose within him, as if he could replenish what he needed at any time. Intrigued, Su-Yun attempted to recall the missing portion. Instantly, he felt his trans-dimensional thinking begin to shift and elevate. Space-time trembled. Boom! A silent, resounding roar echoed. Su-Yun's thinking broke through a certain limit, reaching an unknown height. Here, he discovered a strange scene. Countless universes overlapped. Some were remarkably similar to the real universe, while others were ambiguous. Parallel universes. Just as Su-Yun pondered this in astonishment, he sensed the part he was missing. In countless universes, there were countless people who looked remarkably like Su-Yun. They were either ordinary or exceptionally gifted, possessing extremely high intelligence and talent. They experienced all sorts of things, eating, being murdered, winning the lottery, a tapestry of joys and sorrows. Some shared similar lives, while others experienced entirely different ones, each with their own countless possibilities. Yet, at this moment, regardless of what they were doing, everything froze, as if time itself had stood still. Countless Su-Yun's expressions shifted, suddenly understanding something, then their faces revealed disbelief. So I am a god. With this thought, whether of mediocre or extraordinary talent, at this moment they all began their return without any resistance. This was a power unique to true gods, and unless one possessed a power of equal strength, it was impossible to resist. However, how could such a thing be possible? Not to mention the minuscule possibility of becoming a true god. Even if someone truly did become a true god, it wouldn't be Su-Yun reclaiming them now, but rather them reclaiming Su-Yun. Of course, this refers to situations where they were willing to resist. Faced with the prospect of returning to the body of a true god, most parallel beings had no will to resist. Su-Yun's indescribably radiant body received each and every parallel being. Faced with something that could have such a huge impact on any ordinary person, Su-Yun barely even reacted. What they possess is too insignificant. Su-Yun shook his head. Compared to the power of a true god, they were pitifully insignificant. Even if countless versions of themselves were added together, they couldn't even increase their strength by 1,000th. Of course, this was only because the power of a true god was too vast and inexhaustible. How could others compare? If Su-Yun weren't a true god at this moment, but an ordinary person, merging countless versions of himself at once would turn a mortal into a superhuman. Soon, in the blink of an eye, all the parallel entities in countless parallel universes disappeared, leaving only a projection. Su-Yun felt a sense of completeness. At this moment, he was the only one. Su-Yun pondered, suddenly discovering several things. For example, he discovered that the parallel universe possessing the little black ball was actually only him. Logically, since he possessed the little black ball, other parallel universes should have been born as well. However, in his observation, there wasn't a single such universe, meaning that the little black ball was unique. Besides this discovery, it seems that parallel worlds don't exist in other worlds. If they did, then at the moment of becoming a true god, the parallel entities in other worlds should have merged, but nothing happened. Su-Yun guessed that either all other worlds were like that, with no parallel worlds at all, or other worlds were special, like true gods, possessing unique attributes. Besides these, after collecting countless parallel entities, Su-Yun was surprised to find that he could actually appear in that unknown universe by descending into a parallel entity. I wonder if parallel universes can obtain the origin, Su-Yun thought, his mind reeling. If so, the origins of so many parallel universes could definitely allow him to raise his authority to the limit, or even easily merge his authority. Even breaking through the limit was definitely achievable. Thinking of this, Su-Yun couldn't help but experiment. Based on his intuition, he chose a parallel universe. Of course, it wasn't entirely random. Besides his intuition, he also discovered that himself in that universe was actually dead. If it weren't for the fact that although this parallel entity was dead, everything that remained still existed in that universe in another form and hadn't truly disappeared, allowing him to collect it, he wouldn't have discovered this parallel universe. However, since the corpse of that parallel entity had already disappeared, it lacked a vessel for its descent. If it were to truly descend, it could only do so through the power of its descent. Su-Yun pondered this, then subconsciously used his extra-dimensional thinking to observe the area, parallel Earth. December 25th, 3:21 p.m. Europe. A biting wind blew. Snow covered the streets, draping vehicles and everything in a white coat. A slightly reddish sunlight streamed down from the sky, reflecting a glittering light across the vast expanse of snow. If nothing unexpected happened, this winter sun would bring warmth and comfort, and people would be sunbathing and strolling on the streets. However, now, no one was in the mood to enjoy the sunshine or stroll. A deathly silence filled the snow-covered streets. Not a single living person was on the entire street. A nauseating stench permeated the air, like the rotting smell of countless dead rats, nauseating to behold. Squeaking and gnawing sounds echoed continuously, as if many things were gnawing on something. Upon closer inspection, they were dozens of black and red cockroaches. They were the size of a human head, with ferocious mouth parts and long legs covered in barbs, looking terrifyingly menacing. They were gnawing on something, a human corpse, its skin already pale and bluish-white, clearly long dead. The head, eyes, abdomen, every part of the body was mangled and bloody. In the air, fist-sized black flies buzzed around. Damn it, these disgusting bugs are everywhere. In a secluded villa in the distance, a middle-aged white man, covered in blood and wearing a dirty gray down jacket, peered fearfully out of a glass window. Beside him were a blonde woman and a blonde boy. The three of them huddled together, trembling in the dark room. The woman and boy wore expressions of terror. 3 months ago, after a small meteorite fell from the sky and shattered, the entire world changed drastically, as if it were the end of the world. Insects began to mutate, growing in size rapidly and becoming incredibly ferocious. Soon after the insect plague broke out, Large numbers of humans were caught off guard and swallowed up by the swarms. The entire world became a paradise for insects. They ravaged every corner of the land, and humans were completely helpless against them. Even the development of effective insecticides only provided temporary relief. Given enough time, the insects would develop resistance and evolve, becoming even more vicious and cruel. Many scientists discovered that the insects' antibodies were produced in a very strange and abnormal way, at an incredibly fast rate. Insecticides that were effective one day would become ineffective the next. Under these circumstances, most of humanity had fallen. Except for some military bases and areas with heavy weaponry, most places became deserted, and the vast majority of people died from the insect plague. The place where the three of them were currently located was one such place, heavily armed and barely defensible. Holy Light City. They are currently on the outskirts. Only by going deeper into the city will they find it more secure and under more guard. Chapter 496 Parallel Universes. Leah, in her 30s, once fair-skinned and beautiful, now had a face covered in dark stains, sunken eyes, and dry hair, looking utterly exhausted. She covered her son-Ike's mouth with her right hand and said weakly, "Devin, will we make it to the city center alive?" Devin took a deep breath and tightened his grip on his AK-47. He comforted his wife, "God will protect us, we'll be safe, believe me, Leah." He then found Leah's left hand with his right and clasped her fingers. Leah was pessimistic. She murmured, "Devin, even if we make it in, how long can Holy Light City hold out?" The more she spoke, the more pessimistic she became, her voice tinged with despair. "There is no God in this world, and no one will save us. We will disappear from this world like everyone else who has died, if only there were a God." But this was a real world. In her view, those were just people the church created to fool people. Even characters like those in movies didn't exist in reality. Even in the apocalypse in movies, there's always someone who steps up to stop it, or develops something new, or even humans mutate and gain superpowers. However, the cruel reality is this: the apocalypse happened, but no one stood up, and humans didn't mutate. Everything was heading in the worst possible direction. The collapse of civilization happened in a very short time. "Leah," Devin called out, his handsome face serious. "You have to believe me." Leah met his gaze, and as she looked at him, her despair was swayed by his unwavering eyes. A sliver of hope returned to her. After resting for a while, Devin decided to continue with his wife. "You two stay close to me." Leah and their 10-year-old son, Ike, nodded quickly. A moment later, the three of them quietly climbed out of a window, avoiding insects as they headed towards the heart of Holy Light City. Along the way, Devin, walking at the front, looked at the road ahead, and even his usually resolute eyes, which had always been firm in front of his wife, revealed a hint of vulnerability. He was afraid too, but he couldn't show weakness in front of his wife and son. "Holy Light City," he murmured to himself. Throughout his journey, he had the opportunity to choose a better city, but he chose this one instead. This city where miracles had occurred. During World War II, the flames of war engulfed this city, until one day, holy light descended from the sky. That light was holy and warm, possessing a power that could inspire repentance. Some believed it must be the power of God, that he was stopping the war. Under the power of faith, the fighting in the city ceased, and peace descended. From that moment on, the city's name changed. To express their gratitude for the cessation of war and the appearance of the miracle, the people named the city Holy Light City. A city steeped in faith. Every year, Christians from all over the world come to this holy site to visit. These factors also meant that when disaster struck, the city was spared, and a large number of people from the surrounding area gathered to protect it. People saw it as their hope, even though the miracles had not continued for decades. It was for this reason that Devin, with his wife and children, came to the city. More than 4 hours later, the three, covered in wounds, panted as they arrived at a place blocked by iron railings and an electric fence. Besides the flying insects, even cockroaches and ants crawling on the ground would be electrocuted and emit black smoke the moment they touched the wire mesh. Of course, some clever cockroaches tried to fly over the electric fence, but they were shot dead by the guards the instant they entered. The three had barely arrived when they were quickly discovered by those inside. 5 armed men, dressed in thick black leather jackets and helmets, their bodies completely covered, immediately approached and questioned them. A moment later, a tall, bearded middle-aged man said, "Born, take them for a checkup." The young man named Born nodded. On the way, Facing the puzzled Devon and his companions, Barn explained. Devon and his friends suddenly understood, and then felt even more desperate. It turned out that the insects not only grew larger, but anyone bitten or scratched by them had a chance of contracting a virus. The patient would first develop a fever, then sweat profusely and fall into coma, eventually dying from a high fever. Although the symptoms resembled a fever, they weren't actually fever-reducing, and fever-reducing medication wouldn't be effective. The effective treatment was still under research, and if someone contracted the disease, death was almost certain. The mortality rate was close to 90%. If it weren't for its low transmissibility, humanity might have been wiped out. Hearing this, Devon and his companions felt uneasy and increasingly desperate. Leah looked panicked. Devon, our injuries, it'll be alright. Devon took a deep breath, as if comforting Leah, or perhaps himself. Byrne looked at them with pity. Although it was only a chance, who knew if any of them would get sick? If even one person did, the family would never be complete. The four walked in the cleared snow, the cold wind occasionally blowing. Devon observed his surroundings. The disaster had been raging for a long time, yet basic order had been maintained, and the streets were clean. But glancing at some passers-by, Devon noticed with a puzzled look that their faces were filled with anxiety, as if they were uneasy about something. Just then, as they approached a wide square, a loud shout rang out. As they drew nearer, Devon and his companions were astonished to see crowds huddled together, listening to a white-robed priest standing on a platform. The priest, a man in his 50s, proclaimed, "The world was created by God. God has always loved us, and he loves this world. He will not abandon us." Hearing the white-robed priest's words, the faces of the crowd below darkened, and voices began to murmur, "Has a miracle really happened here? Will God really save us?" Their faces were filled with uncertainty, despair, and anxiety. Father Stephen, on the platform, sighed inwardly. This wasn't the first time he'd heard such questions. From the hopeful eyes of those who had first faced disaster to their current anxiety, he had witnessed it all. He thought, God probably won't come. Humanity will be wiped out. This is probably God's punishment, Father Stephen thought pessimistically. Although he thought this, he couldn't utter these words aloud, lest it break people's spirits. He took a deep breath, rallied his spirits, and helped the crowd relieve their stress. Yes, God will save us. God sent the Son of Man to redeem us, which shows that God has always loved us. Chapter 497 The End of the World. Father Stephen's speech rekindled the crowd's spirits, easing the tense atmosphere somewhat. However, Stephen knew that as time passed, even his words would have little effect. Ammunition was dwindling, and soon they would be forced to defend with melee weapons, leading to a rapid increase in casualties and a near collapse of morale. Perhaps the collapse of morale would be the end of this base. Just as he was distracted, a beautiful, thin, 7 or 8-year-old girl below the platform asked curiously in a clear voice, "Father Stephen, if God were to descend, how would he solve our predicament?" Stephen subconsciously looked down and fell silent for a moment. He knew this little girl. Her name was Avril. Half a month ago, her father had been killed by insects while searching for food, and a few days earlier, her mother had also perished. She was all alone. If it weren't for luck, she had joined a group of children who had kept her from starving. Who knew what would have happened to this little girl? Will they perish like the little match girl, in a remote corner, as the snow falls, or will they die in even worse circumstances? Stephen didn't know, but he understood that these children would collapse and suffer misfortune much earlier than the adults. Looking at the hope in Avril's eyes, the little girl truly believed that God existed. Father Stephen felt he should give a kind answer, even if it was a white lie. Under the watchful eyes of many, he gave a benevolent smile. God is all-knowing and all-powerful. There is nothing he cannot do. If he desires, our calamities will vanish in an instant. God's power is wondrous, incredible, beyond our comprehension as mortals. Finally, he murmured, "We will be all right." Really? Avril was overjoyed, her sky-blue eyes shining with hope. She clasped her hands together in front of her chest and silently closed her eyes, seemingly in prayer. The nearby crowd, including the Devon couple who were passing by, listened to Father Stephen's speech with a mixture of shock and doubt, unsure whether to believe him. As adults, they were more rational than Avril, knowing what was real and what was impossible. Did God really exist? Was God truly omniscient and omnipotent? Just then, a cacophony of shouts and sirens blared from afar. "What happened?" Devon asked, bewildered. "The insect swarm is here." The insect swarm is here, terrified cries echoed. What? How could this be? The crowd below the stands gasped in disbelief. A middle-aged black man cried out in panic, "Isn't it winter? How can there be an insect swarm?" Yes, the crowd was both terrified and confused. Based on recent observations, the insects were not very active in winter. How could they suddenly become like this? Perhaps there isn't enough food, someone speculated. That's why the insects attacked. In a panic, Byrne, who had brought Evan, his wife, and son, gripped his rifle tightly, saying nervously, "I think I can't take you. Find somewhere to hide." With that, he ran away. "Leah, I'll go check it out." Devon hesitated, deciding to go and assess the situation firsthand, so he could make plans if things went wrong. Hearing this, Leah gripped Devon's arm tightly with her right hand, looking him straight in the eye. "Devon, don't go, Dad," their son, Ike, said helplessly. "It'll be all right, I'm just going to check," Devon explained. "Let's go together," Leah insisted. Unable to persuade Leah otherwise, Devon had no choice but to let them both come. Along the way, many soldiers carrying guns ran past them, heading towards the defensive electric fence. It didn't take long for Devon to lead his wife and son to see the battle from afar, and they were immediately stunned by the overwhelming black swarm of insects. Purple-black ants, black-red cockroaches, black flies, black beetles, all sorts of insects, dozens of times larger than normal, formed a sea of insects. Insects that shouldn't be active in winter, or that would normally attack each other, were now peacefully coexisting, all heading towards a single target. This strange and abnormal scene puzzled not only Devon, but even insect experts were perplexed, feeling that what they were witnessing defied common sense. What made them go against their nature, targeting this place so precisely? What was attracting them here? But there was no time for their doubts. Tens of thousands of surging insects, a dark, overwhelming mass, rushed in, leaving them overwhelmed. Boom, boom, boom. Various bullets and artillery fire continuously poured into the insect swarm. The insects screamed in agony, and the smell of burning filled the air. The electric fence was overwhelmed by the insect swarm. Piles of insect corpses formed walls, allowing the swarm to pour in without hindrance. And there were also buzzing, flapping flying insects that swooped down to attack humans. Screams filled the air. Insects with sharp mandibles and claws gnawed and tore at flesh and blood, spurting blood. The horrifying sounds of gnawing echoed from the swarm. Anyone swallowed by the black torrent would scream a few times and then fall silent. Devon, with Lydia and Ike, watched in horror from afar. "We're finished." Watching the retreating, collapsing defenses, Devon foresaw the swarm soon engulfing Holy Light City. Despair filled his eyes. Gritting his teeth, just as he was about to flee with his wife and children, a strange scene appeared in the sky above the city. Not only him, but the panicked crowd also noticed. A huge screen of light appeared in the sky, followed by a voice. "Lowly humans. Do you need help?" Accompanied by laughter, 6 strange figures appeared in the screen of light. They resembled humanoids, with gray skin, large heads, and black eyes, wearing silver bodysuits. These are, even those in the midst of battle shuddered, their lines nearly collapsing. What they saw was utterly unbelievable. What they were seeing, humanoid creatures. These were aliens. What they didn't know was that this scene was unfolding in all the surviving bases, not just here. The Grey leader, Nar, shouted, "Foolish humans. You're guessing our identities," he laughed. "No need to guess. We can tell you our identities." The hundreds of millions of surviving humans were jolted, ceasing their wild speculations and listening intently. Jilu laughed loudly. "You should feel humble and respect us. We are your creators," the Elegantor declared proudly. "Your god," Nar smiled. The hundreds of millions of humans instantly erupted in uproar, listening to their statements in disbelief. What were these seemingly alien beings saying? They actually claimed to be the creator, God? Instantly, both ordinary people and believers were enraged. Avril, her face flushed red, shouted, "You're talking nonsense. God is an all-knowing and all-powerful being, not you monsters." Father Stephen also shouted angrily, "This is blasphemy. Creators attempting to usurp the glory of the Creator are committing a heinous crime." A chorus of doubts and rebuttals came from among the humans, all expressing disbelief. Seemingly able to hear what they were saying, the 6 little Greys all laughed. "Ha ha ha. I'm dying of laughter," Kara laughed loudly. Dahl chuckled, "Your human civilization has always been under our surveillance. We know all your development, all your secrets, We can easily destroy your civilization. Even the birth of humanity is related to us. If all of this doesn't count as your creator God, then what does? Admit it. You inferior creatures, we are your God." His arrogant words echoed throughout the world, leaving every surviving human in disbelief. Anger, shock, and fear welled up in the hearts of humanity. The world is not lacking in clever and imaginative minds. From the aliens' words, they instantly connected the dots. A meteorite that suddenly appeared out of sight. The changes in the insects, their bizarre behavior. This apocalypse was caused by you. People were first stunned, then all were shocked. The more they thought about it, the more bizarre it seemed, the more accurate their guess became. Soon, similar comments appeared all over the world. The 6 little grays looked somewhat surprised, seemingly astonished that they had guessed correctly. "That's right, we did it," Dal said calmly. The blunt admission, devoid of any pity, instantly ignited an uproar among humanity. It really was them. "How utterly cruel you are," Father Stephen cried out in grief and indignation. "Why did you do this?" Devin roared, his face contorted with rage. The thought of the billions who had perished, of their loved ones and friends dying one after another in this catastrophe, filled everyone with fury. Dole seemed to have heard their cries and said with a hint of surprise, "Is that so hard to understand?" He smiled slightly. "We are God, your creators. This batch of goods of yours has displeased us, so naturally it needs to be eliminated." The humans were shocked and enraged, unable to believe it was for such a reason. Of course, the truth was not that simple. Human development had exceeded its limits, and naturally, it needed to be eliminated. But Dole and his group wouldn't say that. "What do you want?" Their appearance at this moment was certainly not without purpose. Dole and his group, who had originally intended to reveal their purpose, now that the auxiliary system had filtered out such questions, simply stated their objective. Darrell arrogantly declared, "As gods, we naturally have to choose a group of people to survive according to mythology, just like in your human legends. During that ancient great flood, under God's command, Noah built an ark, taking some creatures and humans with him, allowing them to survive." He smiled wickedly. "We also need some people to survive, but not too many." So, in their view, keeping a few humans as studs was just right, but not too many, as too many would hinder them. People were stunned. The great flood reminded everyone of the legends. The Bible says, God saw that the wickedness of mankind on earth was great, so he declared that he would use a flood to destroy all living things on earth, and all flesh and breath, and all would die. In Chinese legend, the great flood was caused by a war between the water god Gonggong and Emperor Zhuangzi. After Gonggong was defeated by Zhuangzi, in a fit of rage, he smashed down Mount Bashao, which supported the sky, causing the heavens to collapse and the earth to sink, resulting in a massive flood. The Mayan Indians possessed a sacred text they considered their holy book, the Popol Vuh, which contained accounts of a flood inflicted by divine wrath upon humanity. The book recounts how God created humankind at the beginning of creation, but this was not a successful experiment. God first sculpted wooden figures into human form and gave them speech. These wooden figures later lost God's favor because they forgot the existence of their creator. Therefore, God decided to unleash a flood to destroy humanity. Jewish tradition offers another version, suggesting that the Lord changed the positions of 2 stars. Babylon, one of the ancient civilizations, had a prophecy: when the major planets converge in Scorpio, aligning in a straight line through their orbits, all humankind on Earth will be destroyed. When the same convergence occurs in Capricorn, another great flood will occur, the former in the height of summer, and the latter in the depths of winter. The famous European prophet Nostradamus also wrote a prophecy of the end of the world in a letter to his family in 1555. Before the world is destroyed, a raging tide will engulf everything, refusing to recede. The few remaining pieces of land will be covered by falling flames and stones, and the beautiful world will be destroyed. Whatever the legend, it was chilling to contemplate. From these alien self-proclaimed godhood, they deduced a terrifying truth. Could it be? Could they really be God, the creators of us humans? They'll talk about floods, and they'll be the ones who unleashed them to destroy humanity. The surviving humans panicked, feeling a sense of mental collapse. Of course, while most collapsed, a small minority refused to believe, clinging to their faith. In Holy Light City, Stephen, watching the despairing faces of the people, even seeing the battle lines beginning to crumble, roared, his face flushed. No. The world was created by God, and we were created by God too. It has nothing to do with him. Quotation mark. Chapter 498 The Arrival of God. Father Stephen sensed something was wrong. Sometimes, the collapse of people's hearts happens in an instant. These suspected aliens had grasped this perfectly, shattering their faith with just a few words. Therefore, he was doing his best to dissuade others from believing them. Of course, Father Stephen himself believed the same. In his mind, the Creator God should be omniscient and omnipotent, not these creatures who looked like ordinary beings. Thinking this, Father Stephen continued to shout loudly, "These guys don't possess the great power God has. Don't be fooled by them, their methods are all the effects of technology." It must be said that Father Stephen had considerable influence in Holy Light City, and given the strong religious atmosphere there, people thought about it carefully and agreed with him. Yes, these people are aliens, they're trying to deceive us, don't fall for it. That's right, how could God be like this? Words of rebuttal kept emerging from the crowd, and the collapsing front was mitigated somewhat. The initially smug little greys, including Dor, showed a hint of amusement upon seeing the morale of other cities crumble. They shouldn't have appeared so early, they should have waited until only 100 or so humans remained before appearing to save humanity. They only showed themselves now to experience the feeling of being creators, finding great enjoyment in the despair in the eyes of humanity. Seeing that almost all the surviving cities were in a state of collapse, the city of Holy Light, along with the Vatican, stood out so conspicuously, becoming a thorn in their side. Especially after hearing the words of those humans transmitted through the auxiliary system, they paused slightly before secretly sneering. On the light screen, Dor, with an arrogant expression, sneered, "Ignorance limits you. To you humans, what's the difference between us and God? We control your civilization, we can give you life or take you away. Your proud technology is utterly vulnerable before us. In your eyes, we should be gods, God." As for the omniscient and omnipotent Dor and his companions, they scoffed. How could such a thing exist in this world? Humanity's imagination is quite extreme, they've even come up with something like this, they exclaimed, inwardly mocking. After a while, seeing that the man named Stephen was still spreading strange claims of omniscience and omnipotence, and that the city was still persisting, they grew impatient. Nar, the leader, suddenly had an idea and instructed the auxiliary system to broadcast the situation in Holy Light City. It's Holy Light City, how could this be? The situation in Holy Light City was mirrored in other bases, shocking the surviving humans. They were then filled with despair as they discovered that their base wasn't the only one invaded. The aliens were determined to exterminate them. Seeing the nearly collapsed and fleeing population of Holy Light City, Nar laughed, "Humans, do you see this? This is the power of us, the Creator God. All who defy us will face only destruction. Behold, it won't be long before these humans who defy the gods disappear from this world." As he cruelly and arrogantly pronounced the death sentence on the humans of Holy Light City, hundreds of millions of humans fell silent, their bodies deathly still, their faces filled with despair. Screams and wails rang out as the swarm of insects cruelly devoured all living things. A small number couldn't bear to turn away, but most stared intently, their gazes fixed, for they saw something in the scene. Although Holy Light City collapsed, the spirit of the people did not crumble, they resisted. "Kill! Fight these bugs, Mary, I've come for you, haha. I didn't commit suicide, my soul will go to heaven after death." Roars echoed continuously. The insect swarm was frenzied, but the people of Holy Light City were even more frenzied. Their defiant roars created a magnificent symphony. This was a lament for humanity. However, no matter how desperately they fought, everyone watching knew they wouldn't last much longer. The surviving humans watching showed sorrow, while the little gray people wore expressions of admiration. All of this filled them with joy. Holy Light City. The insect horde engulfed everything. The remaining few thousand people used their last ounce of strength, hoping to help others and kill as many as possible themselves in their final moments, even the children. Behind the crowd, Avril took out an iron rod, trying to kill a few black beetles that had sneaked in. Behind her, unseen. Squeak, 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 the insects chirped, their menacing mandibles and ferocious eyes fixed on Avril. Black elytra flapped with a buzzing sound, and the beetle swooped down on Avril. It pounced on her neck, its menacing mandibles biting down hard. Blood gushed out. Avril cried out in despair, her body collapsing. 5 nearby beetles, seeing this, immediately pounced on her viciously. Soon, her frail body was covered in black beetles, their sharp mandibles opening and closing, splattering blood and screams. Avril, Father Stephen, seeing this from afar, cried out in alarm. He wanted to rescue her, but the insects in front of him held him back. He was powerless and could only watch helplessly. The others nearby, witnessing the scene, were also powerless, for they too were in dire straits. Amidst the cries of despair, the calls of that frail body gradually faded from everyone's ears. Avril lay on the ground, her pale blue eyes, still fixed on the sky, gazing blankly. "Mommy, Daddy, the sky's so beautiful today." The sky was cloudless, dusk was approaching. In a daze, Avril saw her parents coming to find her. However, what puzzled her blue eyes was the light behind her parents. Were they coming down from heaven to take her? Just as she wondered, the hundreds of millions of surviving humans around the world, their previously sorrowful expressions, froze. Even the little greys were stunned. As dusk approached, and the sky was about to darken, streaks of light appeared out of nowhere. That light was so pure, so holy. Before they could even react, the universe cheered, the universe rejoiced, the universe welcomed a great being. The universe sang praises. Countless people chanted eulogies, praising a supreme being. The voices grew from faint to deafening. "O all-knowing and all-powerful Creator, Master of infinite creation, you are one, and you are 10,000, you are, and you shall be, the self-existent one." Divine praise echoed across the earth, across the moon, across the solar system, and even across the entire Milky Way. It disregarded the limitations of distance, eerily resounding in the ears of countless beings. Whether it was a primitive civilization or an advanced civilization capable of destroying galaxies, all were stunned at this moment. Who was praising him? It was praising God, the hymn of the universe, continuing to echo throughout the Milky Way. "O Almighty God, your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven, for the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours, forever and ever." Shouts of joy, songs of praise, and hymns of praise. The sound echoed for a long time throughout the Milky Way, as if the universe were welcoming some all-knowing and all-powerful supreme being. Despite belonging to different civilizations, not a single person failed to understand, not even the primitive humans. It was as if the language barrier was non-existent. In the Milky Way, primitive intelligent life cheered loudly. Their lowly civilization didn't give it much thought, simply accepting it as divine revelation. They recorded everything they heard in their own way, giving the being countless supreme names. Like a hymn of praise, they believed it to be the creator of the universe. Of course, apart from these lower civilizations, the advanced civilizations with interstellar travel were completely stunned. Nothing could be more terrifying than what appeared that day. Not to mention the hymn that all intelligent beings could understand, the scope of its spread and its meaning alone sent chills down their spines. In this matter, they were no better off than the lower civilizations. What kind of power was this? Could there truly be an omniscient and omnipotent creator? The advanced civilizations, terrified, even considered erecting a statue to worship this mysterious being, hoping to escape potential unknown dangers. Then, something even more astonishing happened to the advanced civilizations. Accompanied by praise and celebration, a white radiance appeared throughout the entire Milky Way, enveloping every place. Darkness vanished, and the Milky Way shone like a light bulb in the dark universe, so bright, so dazzling. This power, all the advanced civilizations were dumbfounded, while others became incredibly fervent, feeling they had found the truth. Then, the Supreme Being descended. Formless, without substance, without soul, without spirit, it was impossible to describe at a glance, as if it were light itself. An ineffable, indescribable, and unbearable form descended upon the entire Milky Way. Countless stars and galaxies adorned it, complementing it, and together with its ineffable body, formed this vast and supreme form. Stars were within it, the starry sky was within it. All living beings, upon seeing it for the first time, were instantly stunned. A thought naturally and frantically appeared in their minds. This was an incomparably noble and powerful being. No one could comprehend his body, he was the embodiment of the Deo. Like the truth itself. To contemplate it was terror, to dilute it. Stunned and frenzied emotions arose among all living beings. They ceased their ability to think, gazing at the ineffable, majestic body before them, falling into obsession and madness. Suyun paid no heed to other civilizations. At this moment, relying on an unseen connection, he forcibly brought his true form to this parallel universe, resulting in the scene just now. In the real universe, his invasion had already reached the entire Milky Way galaxy, and was advancing towards Andromeda at faster than light speed. Naturally, his body of rules had further expanded, The more rules he invaded, the greater his size became. And when Su-Yun descended, if it weren't for shielding most of the influence, it's estimated that all life in the Milky Way galaxy would have been annihilated. Even more ruthlessly, he could have destroyed the Milky Way galaxy within his body, making it disappear into nothingness throughout the entire universe. Su-Yun paid no attention to other parts of the Milky Way galaxy, turning his gaze directly to the solar system. Compared to other places, he took better care of them here. At least the beings gazing upon his form, though dizzy and uncomfortable, still possessed the capacity for thought. The solar system, Earth. All the surviving humans, and all the little grays, stared blankly at the indescribable form. No one could understand what he was, or even see a tiny part of him. But even the tiny part brought tears to their eyes with every glance, and a sharp pain shot through their minds with every further look. They even knew, inexplicably, that this was the mercy of this noble being, allowing them to witness a glimpse of his form. Otherwise, they would have faced utter terror upon first sight. God, Lord, has it been you who descended? Father Stephen felt dizzy, even on the verge of fainting, yet he couldn't bear to look away, his gaze fixed on the majestic light. This is God. This is the true God. Not only him, but everyone had this thought. Compared to those little grays, there's no need for comparison. Anyone with a normal IQ would know that this is God, the omniscient and omnipotent Supreme Being. So God really does exist, Devon murmured to himself. He was overwhelmed with excitement and disbelief. In the Vatican of this parallel universe, Pope Joseph's white beard trembled, and his eyes were filled with tears. The Lord has not abandoned us. As humanity was in shock, all the black insect swarms ceased their activity, as if frozen in amber, trembling and not daring to utter a single sound. Chapter 499 The Era of Divine Descent. God has descended. The surviving humans were thrilled, tears welling in their eyes. At the same time, they felt a sense of grievance, like children seeing their powerful father, filled with dependence and a desire to confide in him. Nar and the other grays on the moon stared wide-eyed, their dark pupils filled with disbelief. God? No, how could this be? How could it really be? The grays, who considered themselves God, were shocked as they gazed at the indescribable, boundless figure, a thought arising in their minds. An omniscient and omnipotent creator. Their bodies began to tremble, overwhelmed by this incomprehensible scene, and by the possibility that the other party was the god of human mythology. What would he do to them? Su-Yun observed Earth and instantly felt disgusted by the grays. These grays were truly a cancer. They were disgusting enough in the real world, but the parallel world wasn't much different. In the real world, a meteorite apocalypse had occurred. Here, genetically mutated insects thrived. Earth was a scene of utter devastation. Most of the creatures except the insects had perished. This Earth was ruined. I guess global civilization will regress, Su-Yun pondered, then thought of a solution. Speaking of which, since becoming a true god, I haven't really used other rules much. Let's give it a try. His first thought was of the rule of time. Now, if Earth wanted a permanent recovery, this rule was the most appropriate. In the other world, due to the Ouroboros, the rule of time was exclusive to them. Other true gods had never used it, so Su-Yun naturally had no opportunity to use it either. I can only use the rule of time in a simplified way. I wonder if it can reverse time. Without much thought, Su-Yun prepared to test the rule's usage. The grays were terrified, the humans were excited, but the next moment, they were all stunned. Avril gazed longingly at the sky, seemingly already foreseeing her meeting her parents in heaven. Father Stephen murmured devoutly, and Pope Joseph roared and trembled with excitement. The next second, no matter what they were doing, they all froze. Time began to reverse, like a video playing in reverse, everything began to replay. The insects left Avril's body, her blood returned, and her injuries healed. The insect swarm slowly receded. Everyone's faces were filled with horror, unable to control their bodies, like puppets on strings. They could only perform various actions as time flowed backward, staring at everything in shock. They shouldn't have been awake, their memories were even starting to regress. But another rule protected them, allowing them to clearly witness this feat. A miracle. This is the power of the Lord. The insect swarm receded, and the dead reappeared one by one, joining the flow of time in a daze. The little grays were utterly shocked. How could such an exaggerated thing happen? How could time reversal be possible? They couldn't believe it, but the miraculous scene before them forced them to believe that such power truly existed in this universe. An incomprehensible power. One day, 10 days, 3 months. Soon, everyone in the world was resurrected. The collapsed cities and the enlarged insects all shrank back to their original size, each returning to its place. Only the billions of dead humans were completely bewildered. Where am I? Who am I? What am I doing? Wasn't I dead? A string of questions arose in their minds. Suyun glanced at the virus meteorite that had appeared in the atmosphere and was about to fall, flowing backward with time. With a thud, the meteorite instantly evaporated, leaving not a trace. Then, Suyun released the time reversal, and time returned to normal. Billions of humans exclaimed in astonishment. In China, holy crap! I'm resurrected, that's unbelievable. The entire world's time reversed, this power, wow, now I believe it, God is truly omniscient and omnipotent, I'm stunned. Shocking words echoed simultaneously across the world, fully demonstrating their awe. Suyun ignored the voices and pondered alone. It really works, it's the rule of the universe, not corrupted by the Ouroboros of time. At the same time, he discovered some problems during the time reversal. It took too long, reversing 3 months took only a minute or two. Suyun thought, if the Ouroboros had done this, it could probably have done it in an instant. But being able to use it to this extent in a simplified form is already impressive. As for splitting into 3 bodies, past, present, and future, like the Ouroboros, that's just a dream. Moreover, the strength of the power of time is different. Suyun realized that if he wanted to imprison a true god with his own power of time, he would be dreaming. Indeed, simplicity is simplicity. But this can barely be considered omniscient and omnipotent. If I were to advance again, Suyun himself couldn't even imagine the power he would possess then. The Ouroboros of time, having obtained special authority, made him even more wary. He absolutely had to advance faster than the opponent, otherwise the consequences would be unpredictable. Perhaps even if he hid in the real universe, the opponent could still find him. Suyun wasn't naive enough to think that hiding here would be safe. After all, everything leaves traces. How could he guarantee that the opponent couldn't find him in the real universe? The real universe absolutely couldn't be discovered, otherwise. Suyun cautiously pondered, then focused his gaze on the trembling little gray figures. Without saying much, he directly took action. He removed some of the concealment of his rule-based body, but not to the point of being fatal. In just an instant, those little gray figures who saw his true form, went mad. Staring at Suyun's true god body, they screamed and shouted insanely. Ah, God, Master! I dedicate myself to you. Doubt and madness appeared on their faces. They knelt on the ground, some even contemplating suicide. At this moment, they had lost all elegance and pride, leaving only the madness born from witnessing the incomprehensible. Suyun ignored these little grays. Sometimes death was the simplest solution, this mad ending suited them better. Right now, he was observing his own body, a body composed of an entire galaxy, countless stars. Should I warp up that Orion galaxy? Suyun thought. He had considered it before, if the little gray superior civilization, the Orions, came looking for trouble again, he'd warp up their entire galaxy. And believe it or not, he could actually do it now. Fine, I'll just give them a curse. Suyun directly activated the curse rules, bestowing a beautiful curse upon the Greys and Orions. As for the severity, it wasn't too serious, the kind that could make them choke to death even while drinking water. The combined power of the curses on the entire race, would the star, the sun, or the planet explode on the spot? Suyun's imagination ran wild. Although it was a bit unbelievable, under the power of the curse, there might actually be some possibility. After finishing all that, he turned his attention to his original goal, the origin of the universe. As his rule body invaded the Milky Way, very naturally and domineeringly, the rules here were instantly taken over by him. The origin of the universe. Suyun was surprised. He sensed something was wrong. In his astonishment, he carefully sensed it. Soon, he investigated the reason. The universe actually shares a common origin, parallel universes and the real universe, the origin is actually connected. In the course of thought, he quickly found some clues. There is only one origin of the universe because all parallel universes are actually just one universe, only splitting and branching out due to different possibilities. It was like different timelines. Suyun's expression shifted. This was not good news for him. The dreams of countless origins had been shattered, and in his bad mood, the entire Milky Way galaxy stirred. Galactic shifts occurred, and terrifying disasters descended. If Su-Yun hadn't reacted quickly, countless planets would have been destroyed. Even so, even if it was just a false alarm, it still terrified many civilizations. Su-Yun quickly calmed down and made another discovery. Even if there is only one origin of the universe, its invasion of parallel universes would accelerate his absorption speed, and the form of his divine body also changed. His body of rules seemed to have split. If viewed using spatial rules, it seemed as if two bodies were overlapping, possessing a multiverse-like quality. Su-Yun's interest was quickly piqued. If his assumptions are correct, his form will definitely change drastically in the end. To put it more vividly, he will become both 1 and 10,000, becoming even more bizarre and ineffable. With countless different possible forms combined, even a true god would probably not be able to understand him in the end. Furthermore, although no benefits have been discovered yet, his intuition tells him that this is definitely a good thing. After thinking it through, Su-Yun used the rational thinking of the photon system to create a clone. I'll use this tool that won't get tired of eroding the parallel universe, only a thinking like photon thinking, which is very similar to the great Dao and the heavenly Dao, can work so diligently when he treats himself as a tool. The photon clone disappeared without a trace as soon as it appeared, merging into the rules and becoming one with them. After doing all this, Su-Yun was about to leave this parallel universe when his gaze suddenly turned to the solar system. Earth has truly suffered many calamities. I might as well give it a makeshift makeover. The billions of surviving humans on Earth were suddenly stunned. The entire world was bathed in bright light, as if Earth had become a light bulb. Su-Yun released the restrictions, and his massive body of rules began to erode the entire solar system. The sun began to change color, turning platinum gold, its golden sunlight shining forth. As for the moon, it turned entirely silver, like a silver disk hanging in the sky, breathtakingly beautiful. Moreover, it emitted its own light. The moonlight, like silver sand, mingled with the platinum sunlight, as if it were the essence of the sun and moon. In fact, it was almost like that. These lights exuded a mysterious power. Earth became even bluer, and to balance things out, Su-Yun even incorporated his body of darkness. For example, Pluto was completely dyed black, filled with evil and eeriness, with a sense of distortion. Even faint, eerie sounds could be heard around it. Its movement speed also suddenly increased, rapidly orbiting the solar system, like a giant satellite guarding it. At the same time, there was an invisible and colorless barrier surrounding the solar system. Finally, the entire solar system changed, filled with extraordinary elements. Su-Yun looked on with a strange expression. This is a spiritual energy revival. Speaking of which, will humanity be wiped out again? With so many plants and animals, who knows what will happen? Forget it. This is all I can do to help them. After silently offering a blessing, Su-Yun's indescribable body left the place. The light of the Milky Way slowly dimmed, as if the lights had been turned off, the light dissipating strand by strand. Although he left, the effects did not disappear, and legends about the creator of the Milky Way began to spread. Countless civilizations feared his power, even worshipped his power, and began to pursue the secrets of the creator. And people in other galaxies might also come to check on the Milky Way because it had become a light bulb, and they would probably be very surprised at that time. Because the entire Milky Way had similar legends of a creator god. As for Earth, after adapting to the drastically changed Earth, countless people were filled with gratitude. The end of the world is over, thank you, Lord, don't stop me, from now on I am a devout believer of God. Various grateful comments appeared on the internet. The sky was cloudless, the golden sun hung high, and the sunlight shone brightly. So beautiful, basking in the sun, Avril nestled against her resurrected parents, her little face full of happiness. Thank God, came a rough male voice. A soft female voice replied. The three figures stood together, three smiling faces, radiating happiness. In the church, Father Stephen gazed at the clear sky, murmuring sadly, "The Lord has left." Pope Joseph murmured devoutly, "Our Father in heaven." The disaster had passed, but people had not forgotten God's grace. Someone was surprised to recall that the day God descended to bestow grace was December 25th, an important holiday, Christmas. A holiday commemorating the birth of the Son of God. With this astonishing discovery, someone proposed it, and after countless countries seconded it, a special day was born. To commemorate this day, people changed the calendar, just as the common era, which had been established based on the birth of the Son of Man, began on that day with a new name. The era of divine descent. Because of the extraordinary factors casually scattered by Su-Yun, interesting things will happen in parallel universes, but all of this is irrelevant to him, because he has already returned to the real universe. Su-Yun, like a true god from another world, transformed into the rules and merged into the universe, silently encroaching upon the real universe. At the same time, countless avatars were sent out, and countless parallel universes began to be eroded. Chapter 500 The Limits of Great Divine Power. Time passed quickly. Under the geometric expansion of the rules of light and darkness, even though the universe was almost infinitely large and constantly expanding, it was still completely engulfed. Only at this moment did Su-Yun realize that he had underestimated the scale of the universe. The Milky Way was as insignificant as a point in the universe. Countless galaxies formed a filamentary network, like a spider web, and countless blood vessels, indescribably vast. The vast and terrifying origin of the universe converged every moment. Su-Yun's strength increased at a speed that would make even a true god envious, jealous, or even shocked to the point of having his eyes pop out. It was simply too exaggerated. In less than half a month, Su-Yun found that he had unexpectedly achieved an unforeseen increase in strength. Or rather, he had still underestimated the origin of the universe. During this time, he took some time to return to the other world, held a banquet, learned about the power division of true gods from the warriors, and also gained a better understanding of his own strength. The limit of great divine power. The realm once reached by the Ouroboros of time. Even more than that, under the power of the universe's origin, it reached the limits of both light and darkness. The limit of great divine power x2. It's no exaggeration to say that if it were to fight the Ouroboros of time now, it could absolutely crush it. Of course, this refers to the Ouroboros of time before its power increased. After gaining special authority, who knows what level it has reached. The supreme divine power is truly omniscient and omnipotent. Thinking of this, Su-Yun felt another surge of tension, his anxiety growing even stronger. He must advance to supreme divine power as soon as possible. But, unknown dangers, Su-Yun frowned. Upon reaching the limit of great divine power, it sensed something was wrong. Every time it considered advancing to supreme divine power, an immense sense of danger would assail it. This feeling was similar to, yet different from, its nature. Su-Yun couldn't quite put his finger on it, but he felt the danger didn't come from any potential supreme god. Su-Yun had considered ascending to the highest godhood in the real universe, but the same problem arose. He sensed that ascension in another world was different from ascension in the real universe. One was like an incomplete product, the other like a complete one. The real universe was safe. The other world, unknown dangers. Considering the threat of the Ouroboros of time and his own biases, Su-Yun decided to ascend in the other world. However, the danger. I must find a way to increase my strength. Su-Yun had thought about this situation. There were essentially two ways to ascend safely. One was to acquire other powerful authority, using a large number of authority to win, such as destiny, etc., raising them all to their limits, and then ascending all at once. Finally, there was another method, which Su-Yun had already planned to do. The fusion of light and darkness would grant access to an even more terrifying authority. Achieving either of these goals would ensure a safe breakthrough. Of course, being rather greedy, and possessing the cheat code of the real universe, Su-Yun naturally wanted both. First, I'll create that unknown authority, then try to acquire other powerful authorities, and then advance all at once. Su-Yun didn't believe he couldn't advance even this way. What danger could be so formidable? Even a great god would be incredibly powerful if they could raise an authority to its limit. If they failed to advance even this way, they would have to accept defeat. Authority fusion. Su-Yun focused his attention on his body. Under the influence of a vast amount of cosmic essence, light and darkness finally ceased to be distinct and began to merge. At their boundary, a chaotic, indescribable, hazy radiance flowed. The ratio was only 1/10. The fusion of the two powers far exceeded his expectations. The difficulty was unbelievably exaggerated. Just for this 1/10 fusion, the amount of cosmic essence Su-Yun poured into it was more than the combined limit of the light and dark powers' ascension. This exaggerated difficulty even made Su-Yun feel that he might be creating a power that didn't exist. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that this was probably why the difficulty was unimaginably high. At the same time, he also had a vague guess about this unknown power. If it really was that power, it was indeed possible. After thinking it over, Su-Yun controlled the photon system and calculated the time required for the fusion. Soon, the result came out. The universe will be drawing its essence from me every moment. If there are no unforeseen changes later, the fusion will take about 105 days, more than 3 months. Too long, Su-Yun frowned. In such a long time, who knows what that Ouroboros of time will become? If it's lucky enough to escape the danger of ascension and become a supreme god, the terrifying power of space-time, according to his calculations, should have a high success rate. Therefore, he must shorten this time. If other true gods knew that he could easily raise the two powers to their limits and even fuse them into an omnipotent power in just over 3 months, they would probably be furious. And he still complains about the time being too long? The speed at which the origin of the universe is absorbed has already reached its limit. It can't be faster at all, unless, other worlds. Su-Yun fell into thought. Go to the astral plane of another world, and then try to go beyond this world to slowly find new worlds. Su-Yun hesitated, considering whether to do this. However, just as he was about to make a decision in his heart, he invaded countless parallel universes. Even the newly born parallel universes couldn't match the speed of his invasion. In fact, with the last parallel universe being invaded, any new parallel universes born afterward were already in a state of invasion from the moment they were born. At that instant, Su-Yun sensed something different, and his body underwent a strange and incomprehensible change. His body was like one, yet also like 10,000, overlapping and becoming extremely bizarre. A multiform. It's no exaggeration to say that even a 9th-level rule god couldn't withstand a single glance at him. In addition, Su-Yun seemed to have transformed into the master of the universe, perceiving everything in the universe. Because of this, he discovered a strange place. The universe actually had traces of collision. It was as if some enormous thing had briefly brushed past the real universe, leaving behind some traces. Could it be? Su-Yun was somewhat taken aback. He quickly began to sense. Because the rules govern the entire universe, his transdimensional perception easily extended beyond it. Pitch black, utterly empty. Not even the 4 fundamental forces existed. It was a deathly void. Yet, despite its deathly stillness, it seemed teeming with bizarre and wondrous things, and an incomprehensible wealth of information. Existence and non-existence coexisted. Chapter 501 Another World. You could say there's nothing there, or you could say there's everything. In Su-Yun's perception, the universe was emanating a complex and profound aura or information. And within this information, Su-Yun suddenly felt a sense of familiarity, as if some places around him, somewhere between existence and non-existence, had a connection to him, yet it was neither quite there nor quite there. This feeling is somewhat like a parallel universe, Su-Yun pondered, but not quite. It was somewhat like his information was spreading out from the universe, and that unknown place was influenced by his information, thus giving birth to things related to him. Driven by curiosity, Su-Yun's extraterrestrial consciousness couldn't help but follow that faint sense of familiarity, heading towards the unknown. This place seemed both distant and non-existent, incredibly strange, practically a contradiction. However, even in such a bizarre place, his extraterrestrial consciousness felt transcendent, quickly finding the familiar spot. A strange scene unfolded. Just moments before, it had been empty, but as his extraterrestrial consciousness spread, a pitch-black object, like a black hole, appeared. Startled, he instantly connected with that connection and wanted to investigate. But to his surprise, his usually invincible extraterrestrial consciousness encountered an obstacle. It was a barrier that seemed thin yet possessed an infinite thickness. Su-Yun even felt that it was instinctively rejecting his extraterrestrial consciousness, like a body instinctively resisting and eliminating a foreign virus. Naturally, he wouldn't give up. His powerful and terrifying consciousness assaulted and invaded that place. He didn't know how much time had passed. It felt like an instant, yet also like an eternity. Boom! Su-Yun broke through that pitch-black barrier. The moment a wisp of his consciousness entered, Su-Yun felt a connection being severed. In other words, the signal weakened, blocked by the barrier. Even as soon as his consciousness entered, an instinctive hostility appeared nearby, constantly pressuring and eroding him, trying to destroy this wisp of consciousness. Even Su-Yun's transcendental consciousness, with only a tiny bit of it, felt like it was about to disappear at any moment. But even in that short time, he sensed the anomaly. Completely new rules. Su-Yun sensed rules vastly different from those of other worlds and parallel universes. It's actually a new world, or a place similar to a universe, Su-Yun thought in astonishment. That connection is, just as he was pondering this, even considering tracing the connection, His transdimensional consciousness was annihilated. Suyun's face darkened. What kind of world or universe was that? If his physical body hadn't been there, he would have definitely taught it a lesson. The targeting is too powerful. I must find a way. After a moment's thought, he quickly thought of a place. Perhaps, that sense of connection is the key to breaking the deadlock. Just as Suyun was about to take action, he suddenly thought of something. No, I can't simply send my mind over there, otherwise the situation will be unclear, and the sense of connection might disappear along with it. In that case, not only would I get nothing, but I would also lose more than I gained. Maybe next time, I won't even be able to find the place. In an instant, he began to think about whether he should create a cheat for himself. After thinking for a while, he quickly thought of a divine technique. The photon system. It's also its own consciousness, and it also possesses the characteristics of hyperspace, so it can definitely go to that place. I just don't know if the photon consciousness will be weakened after leaving the main body. Without the main body, a powerful hardware, the possibility of being weakened is really high. And that place is so repulsive to me. Forget it, I'll just go for it. Without saying a word, a small part of the photon consciousness was split off, and then, carrying the consciousness of the main body, it quickly rushed towards that unknown place. It felt like an instant, yet also like an infinite amount of time. Following the connection, the photon consciousness arrived at that unknown area. After breaking through that incredible black barrier, before that instinct could attack and oppress it, its hyperspace consciousness instantly transferred there through the connection. That instinct didn't even have time to react. Cold, numb, a feeling of numbness. What's going on? Suyun felt as if he had been stuffed into the body of an inanimate object, while at the same time, there was an invisible pressure and repulsion coming from the void. That instinct caught up with him. It was omnipresent, but with the strange fluctuations of his thoughts, this dead body was forcibly activated. Cold and numb, like the numbness caused by a prolonged lack of blood flow, as if one couldn't perceive their own body. This was Suyun's first impression. As time passed, his pale fingers twitched slightly. Inside a Western-style toilet, emitting a pungent odor, lay a child of about 8 or 9 years old, dressed in black aristocratic clothes, with short blonde hair and somewhat delicate features. His face was pale, lacking color, even exuding a deathly aura. Upon closer inspection, one couldn't even see the child's chest rising and falling. He was dead. However, at this moment, a bizarre scene appeared. The nearly 10-year-old child's fingers actually twitched. If anyone knew this, they would probably wet themselves in fear. The twitching of his fingers grew stronger. Suyun slowly opened his eyes. This is a corpse. The connection had actually reached a corpse. He wasn't too surprised by his own resurrection, even though it was a corpse, its consciousness suppressed. But due to his divine nature, he could forcibly control it. Scientifically speaking, his brain waves were powerful enough to forcibly control the body. And some of the cells that hadn't been dead long had been forcibly activated. Just as Suyun was wondering, voices came from afar. It's over. Arthur is dead. Will we be implicated? A boy's fearful voice asked. What are you afraid of? He's just an insignificant marquis's son. Even if he's dead, he won't be valued. Besides, we didn't kill him. The duke's son killed him. What does it have to do with us? A burly boy's voice rang out. Even if this insignificant guy dies and someone causes trouble, with the duke's son to take the fall, it's nothing. He's the duke's only son. What is an insignificant marquis's son? The burly boy's voice was full of disdain, as if he were the duke's son himself, radiating a strange sense of superiority and pride. It was like killing a marquis's child. Even if he was an unimportant one, he was still a nobleman. Which would make him feel good. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.